Welcome back to the Gen Z Speaks podcast. Today is a very special episode. We had Jill Stein on. Now we're having the former Prime Minister of Pakistan all the way from Lahore zooming in. Imran J. Khan. I butchered that completely.
Yeah.
Wow. I really did. He's not. No, it's okay. He's not the former Prime Minister, but he is a filmmaker.
So I guess
What's life like in
share
jail?
the same name with the former Prime Minister of Pakistan.
Yeah.
Also the World Cup champion.
Yes.
1992.
The only one.
Shout out.
You have the wrong guy
Legend.
Also, I share the same name with Amir Khan, the very famous
His
Bollywood
nephew?
actor's nephew,
Yeah.
who's also an actor, famous actor. And I also share the same name, Imran Khan, with a Punjabi rapper singer named Imran
There's a
Khan.
bunch of you.
There's a lot of,
But there's
famous
only
Imran
one
Khan.
J.
But that's why I have to have the J.
Imran J. Khan.
It's a Michael B. Jordan situation, if you will.
Yeah.
Literally, because he's the Michael
can't
Jordan of
just
Pakistan.
Yeah.
He's literally the MJ.
Yeah, he is actually.
Imagine if MJ only had one ring. That's like Imran Khan, but that's the most important one. It's only every
it's a
5
World
years.
Cup.
It's a World Cup.
It's a kind of a tough
We
one.
haven't won since 1992.
Yeah.
So you're a filmmaker,
Yeah, mostly.
mostly.
Yeah,
What
and
makes you say that?
Because I'm kind of like, I used to think of myself, like I used to think, okay, I'm a writer and director, and that's like what I want to do, and that's what I'm focused on, and that's how I want people to see me. And like for a couple of years, I was like positioning myself that way, and I was like, it's like I'm with an agency, and I'm with like and I'm like I directed a feature and all this stuff, and I was like, okay, I'm a writer director. And then recently I was like, I think that's kind of limiting because I still really like to edit. Like I like to edit for other people. I think that's like really fun. And then I like to do I'm trying to like keep things as like open creatively as possible, because I feel like there was some part of me that was, or like I think the way people were seeing me was like oh, he wouldn't be interested in like editing this thing or whatever because now he's like directed a feature. And I was like, no, I'm still like,
They're boxing you in.
yeah. And I was like, no, I still like to, because I think generally I'm just a creative person who likes to work on creative things. It's like, I don't know what you call that. Like, I'm just a creative person. And like, that could mean I'm directing sometimes. That could mean I'm writing sometimes. That could mean I'm editing sometimes. That could mean I'm like, and now like doing stand-up sometimes. Like, it could be anything. And that is why that question is just like, I don't know anymore. And maybe it doesn't matter anymore in the world that we're in now, because like there are a lot of people who are multi-hyphenated, who are like stand-ups, who are directors, who are writers, who are, what I mean? Like, I think it's like,
Everybody in LA.
yeah, but like I think there are a lot of examples of people who do. I think if you show mastery at like stuff and you're legitimate in some things, like it's hard to branch out into new things because people see you as one thing. But I think you can like prove that you're as good at you're good at multiple things.
Yeah.
Like I think, and so I don't know. I think that's where I'm headed. Is just like, hey, I do different things.
Well, the art forms you mentioned, they're very interconnected.
Yeah.
Because as a stand-up comedian, I always feel like I'm a
It's
storyteller.
writing, and you're a writer.
You're making a film,
Yeah,
and you're
yeah.
walking people through the film. But you're just narrating it first person.
It
You're breaking
is.
the fourth wall. And you're
Yeah.
just telling them story.
Yeah.
And it's editing is like, you edit in stand-up. Like not like
Yeah.
technically,
No,
but
but
you
it
edit out
is.
jokes all the time.
Oh yeah, you're like, okay, wait, if I remove
Yeah.
this part, if I like, yeah, it's the same creative muscles. That's why I'm like, oh, like the way I've always thought about stand up is like it's writing, directing, and performing one character.
Yes,
That's
it's a
all it is.
one-man act.
Yeah.
a one
So
woman
you're
act, yeah.
you're writing it, so you're acting in it, you're writing it,
Yes.
and you're like editing it, and you're just it's like all of those things you learn as a filmmaker can be applied. Although there is like it's very different in a lot of ways, like how you construct a joke or whatever, and like how it's not always about storytelling. It's like there's just other tools to use in stand-up that you don't really use as a filmmaker, but there's so much overlap, and that's why I think it's like if you're a creative person, you can like, like I mean I see people like that like inspire me, like Rami Youssef, who's like he's a great stand-up, like just like I like he's one of my favorite stand-ups actually.
Really?
Just like new stand-ups, like I just really like his style, his perspective, his like he's just genuinely like funny to me. And like, so as a comedian, he has like such a great act, you could say. But then he's also like a director, and he's also a writer, and he's also an actor.
Yeah.
And like I think like to me, I think he's just a generally creative person. You can plug him in and he can do different things. I bet if he like wanted to, he could be a good editor. I don't know if he edits really, but I bet he could be good at it, because I think it's the same like creative mind of like, hey, let's try something here. Let's do this. What if we did this? What if we did that? Every creative process to me like starts from that question, like what if, right?
Were you always creative? Did you always want to be a filmmaker growing up?
The first kind of creative thing that I really went hard in was acting, actually. So when I was in high school, that's the thing that like broke me out of my shell, or even like made me think of myself as a creative person, was doing theater in high school, where I was like, oh, like this is the most like interesting, challenging thing that I've had to do, and like where I wanted to like put my whole self into. And it's not like, hey, I'm doing this thing for a grade, like to pass a class or to and so I think that was a huge shift for me, because up until then school was just like a thing I had to do. I don't know if you had that experience. Like,
wow. And then theater is the one that like
it's like, oh, I want to do this,
made you want to go to school.
Yeah. And like, and so I think that was like the first thing that I was like, oh, and I thought, oh, I want to be an actor. And then when I got to college and I was making like sketch videos with my friends, basically there were like South Asian culture shows in my college at UC Davis, and there were Muslim Student Association like events where you could play a video, like a funny video. And the South Asian culture show stuff, and between those two, I was like the person who were like, oh, he knows how to edit. Like people thought, I think I just gave off like oh, he knows how to use a computer.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Like he could probably put together like, because that at that time, this is 2000.
You were the quant. Yes.
Yeah. In 2003. When I started college, it was still like very few people had like a computer to edit on. It wasn't a thing that like everybody had, or even could do, or knew how to do, or even knew how to get the software. Like you had to like get a cracked version of Premiere Pro, which was like, it was like things you needed to be a little savvy to figure out, because
so you had the tool.
Then so they were like, okay, can you edit? So then I remember I edited a video. And then what I realized was I just sort of naturally became more valuable sort of behind the camera, in terms of like figuring out how do we shoot it, and like how are we gonna edit it, what music are we gonna put on it, like those kind of like things, which at the time I didn't realize were all separate like things. Like cinematography is different from directing, is different from editing, but to me all of it was like the same at that time. Like, okay, it's the person making the video. Like I was just the person, like I didn't realize those are all different things, but I was sort of more behind the scenes than in front of the camera at a certain point, and I just liked that. I just was out of my friends, I was the most valuable to be the guy behind the camera, rather than like. And so you just end up there.
So fit.
Yeah, like if I'm acting, then I kind of don't trust that they're going to shoot it right. You know what I mean? Because they don't really know what I know, or they don't have the experience. So then I just became the director and like the writer more of what the videos we were making. And that's how I like worked with Hasan, like back in the day. Like Hasan Minhaj is like, I was the director, writer, and he was more the performer and also writer, but he was more in front of the camera. But I was more useful to figure out, okay, how are we gonna like put this together? How's this gonna like come together in the edit? And like, what do we need? Do we need to shoot anything extra? Like whatever. And so I started as like like a kid who wanted to be an actor, and then just found myself as more of a director. And then I really, but also really enjoying that and wanting to do that. And then years of, went by of like finishing my engineering degree, working in medical devices, and then eventually coming around to going to film school. So I was 26 when I started film school. So I wasn't like that young. and then
That's young though.
is it?
26.
Yeah.
So while you're after your engineering degree and you're working in medical devices, were you like, I wish I was acting right now, or I wish I was directing?
Yeah, I didn't know what I think I went through like a soul searching time where I was like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I don't want to. I know that like engineering and medical devices wasn't the thing for me, and so I was searching for what that thing would be, and I think that's why a huge turning point for me was taking this screenwriting class at Stanford at their like even I guess it's like working professional like program where you could take evening classes.
Yeah.
So like after work I would go and take this class, and then in the class I had another huge light bulb moment where I was like, oh, I actually enjoy learning about this. And that was like felt very new for me, and especially after finishing a engineering degree, I was like, this is, I think, and that's why I don't know if film school's for everybody, to be honest, because not everybody likes to be in a classroom and like studying film. They just want to be making stuff. But for me, I was like, oh, I actually like sitting in a class and like learning this. And so that was for me like, okay, I think I'd really do well in film school. Like if I, so that was the pivot.
You pursued it.
Well, I got into a film school, which was NYU Tisch Asia, which is now doesn't exist, but at the time was a sister campus to the MFA program in New York, but in Singapore. And so
Did you spend 3 years in Singapore?
Yeah, I was there for 3 years.
What was that?
Oh wow.
Pretty good actually. I mean, Singapore is a nice place to live.
Yeah,
like
beautiful, right?
It's like great public transportation, great like sort of just, I mean, it's also small enough that it's easy to like get around, and things are, I mean, it's, you know, everything's kind of like new and nice. But and as a filmmaker, it's really interesting because within an hour flight of Singapore, there's probably like 20 countries. And
Right.
so what happened in our program was like your second year film, your thesis is like you're encouraged to like shoot in all these countries. And so all of our films were like were shot in all these different countries, and I think it just gives you an opportunity to do that. And that's why I shot a short film in Pakistan actually, like during that time, and that's only because of the proximity. I was like, oh, it's only like a 6-hour flight or whatever, like it's like doable. Whereas if I was in the States, I'd be like, oh, that's a like a really
18-hour flight. Yeah.
like, or even just like the expense of it and all that. It just felt more possible being in Asia already to do something that crazy. And so like
Badass.
so being in Singapore ended up being a great thing as a filmmaker, of just the opportunity to like shoot in different places and like get like a world filmmaker experience. Whereas if you're just like in New York, it's like, you know,
There's only so many possibilities.
yeah, you're it's also like being in places where there isn't film infrastructure changes how you think about film, because you
more
have
crafty.
you got to be scrappy, and you got to like you know, you got to like
Maximize your resources.
yeah, you got to maximize you got to like, you know, wear more hats, you know, like you got to be able to understand all the different crew positions more.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to like do a lot more yourself. So I think there's something about the difficulty of shooting in places that don't have, like shooting in Pakistan was like the hardest thing I've ever done. Probably it was harder than, in a lot of ways it was harder than the feature, because at least with the feature I had like infrastructure. With in Pakistan, it's like I shot in Lahore. I don't know where's your family from, by the way.
Lahore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. What part?
Yeah, I was different parts of Lahore, but we shot like some in like one of the defense areas.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen the film. I should show it.
I saw
Oh,
it.
you've seen
Yeah.
it? Yeah. So,
Drone Boy, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the drone and the kid.
Drone and the kid, yeah.
So the where his like house thing is, that his like shed thing, if you remember.
Yeah.
That's
Where he
like in
talks to the-
defense. It's an
Oh.
undeveloped part of defense. So
Okay.
it's like where they're gonna build stuff, but it literally was like a barren area and actually looked really cool. So then that's why we ended up shooting there. But then we shot in like.
Did you shoot in Olahor? Because I saw some in the gully. Yeah.
Yeah. So
makes
that
sense.
is like, dang, I'm forgetting the name. I mean, this was now over 10 years ago, but I'm forgetting the name. But it was a Christian little mini town. Actually, we just like the look of it.
Yeah.
And then
so you scouted all these places?
Yeah, we would drive around. I had a local producer fixer. And so me and him, Fayaz Idris, who's like he's like done a lot in dramas, I guess, like in Pakistani dramas. Yeah, it's basically like they're soap operas.
Okay.
So he works in that, but also in journalism. Like he would be like the camera guy if like CNN came in and was shooting something.
Right.
He would be he would like host he would produce and shoot stuff for foreign news organizations and stuff like that. So he had like international experience and stuff like that. So at the time it kind of made sense. I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know what I'm going for and what I'm trying to do. And so it was like getting off of a plane. I knew him and he had like, I was hiring him to do it. And then I had to find everybody else like and my DP came from London or England, but he was going to be in like, he's like, Pakistani British, and he's this like crazy talented DP, and he was gonna we connected through a friend, and he was gonna be in Lahore for a family wedding during the time we were shooting. And he like loved the script, and he's like, okay, let's do this. So that's how I got him, but it was because it's hard to find crew people. But that's what I'm saying, when you're in a place where there isn't like infrastructure, you got to find people, you got to like be scrappy, because it's hard to find talent, like talented people, qualified people. I mean, I remember I feel like this is long enough ago that I could say this and nobody will be offended, but like our sound guy was we had a sound guy, and then like the second day he just didn't show up.
What?
Yeah.
You had no sound guy?
And so then my producer was so mad, and then he had to go find another guy, and he brought another guy in. Just literally ghosted.
Show up.
Can you imagine that? Like just didn't show up, and we're like, what is going on here? And so that was a disaster. And then the second guy came in, and then
was he part of the NYU program?
No.
Okay,
I'm finding
these are
people.
local guys in Pakistan.
Yeah. Because I'm in Pakistan, so like I didn't
Maybe
have
he had a
anybody
cricket
with
game.
me.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like I wish I could have brought people. There was like all these issues and whatever, but.
So how'd you get in contact with the guy in England, in London?
Through. I could tell you. So I reached out to two-time Oscar winner Sharmeen Chinoy Obaid.
She has
so
great documentary filmmaker.
Yeah. She's won 2 Oscars for 2 short documentaries. She's an amazing filmmaker, and I met her through my dad because my dad was trying to get her. My dad runs a fundraiser for development in Pakistan.
Okay.
And every year in the Silicon Valley area, and when we were one time in Pakistan, we went to her house because he wanted her to like speak at the fundraiser, like because she's a prominent Pakistani person, like, and so we just met so I came with my dad, and then I met her, and so then I told her I'm a filmmaker and all this stuff, and then later I just like emailed her out of nowhere, and I was like, hey, I'm trying to make this short in Pakistan, like do you know any DPs? Like I need a really good DP. Obviously I trust her taste, and she so she's like, she recommended a couple of people, and one of those people couldn't do it. Nosheen Dadaboy, who's a great DP and filmmaker and documentary filmmaker in her own right, but she couldn't do it. But she recommended Heather Zafar, who's in England, and she was like, oh, I think he's gonna be here for like something. Nice. So maybe you can like ask him. And so it's just like through people, like
worked out.
Yeah, you gotta like hustle through everybody you know and be like, hey, who do you know? Gotcha. I think that's filmmaking, though. Yeah. Filmmaking is so much hustle. That's like, and like trying to get the best people to come together to make something, I think is 95% of filmmaking. Is like, can you 95. Assemble it's the everything, right the right crew, because once you have that crew there, they're gonna make your thing better.
Right.
Like they're gonna take the script, they're gonna take, and this applies to actors. Like the best, you get the best actors, they're gonna take the writing and make it better.
Right.
You get the best cinematographer, they're gonna take like your visual aesthetic and make it better.
Right.
So everything gets better with the best people. So if you spend most of your energy as a filmmaker like trying to get the best people to work on your short film, you're like whatever, that's where things get good.
That's
you know,
good
the best
advice.
editor too, because an editor can save a film. Like an editor can like
or ruin it.
I think editing is the most important part.
But that's why you need
Yeah.
like it's all about the people. Like the
Right.
best people in the right crew positions are gonna they're gonna make the thing good.
Yeah, we made a
So-
couple of short films, and that was exactly my experience. I feel like a filmmaker is a GM of a
Yes,
like a
it
NBA
is,
team.
yeah.
You're assembling your squad.
Directing is just getting the
You're
right
just a
people.
general manager.
Yeah.
And then you
Casting
have to,
right.
yeah,
It's
like you have to make sure. I think you're hiring up. Like you want to hire more talented people. Like they're more talented
better than you.
Better than you.
Yeah.
You can't hire down. Like don't be insecure.
No.
Because a lot of people make this mistake. I see this in like student films.
Yeah, because
and,
they're
like, short
scared.
films. Yeah, they're
It's
scared to-
insecurity. You don't want people showing up on set who know more than you.
Right.
I'm those kind of filmmakers. But what you realize at the higher levels, it's like I want to be the least experienced person on the set.
Right.
I want people who like know so much more than me, so that I can just ask them, "What do you think? What do you think we should do? Should we do this or this?" And they give you some options, and you're like, "I think I like that." And,
Right.
and now like your thing is just getting better and better. I mean, I had that experience on Mustache too, like directing my feature, which was like my DP was like he knew way more than me, and he was super talented, and just like he would understand what I was trying to do, and like pitch me even better stuff, and be like, okay, well, what if it's this?
That answer, that's a great manager, man, in general. Just having the best people in place, and then you're able to delegate based on the decisions that they're bringing you.
Well, when you're and this is the other thing, like talking about shorts versus features, right? Like shorts, you can micromanage your way through. You don't like you can operate as like a director who's sort of doing everything themselves, because the short is like like even a long short is like maybe 4 days of shooting and maybe a couple of locations, like, and maybe a couple of actors. Like it's small, like the scale is usually small enough that you can like control freak your way through it and make it through
And manage, okay.
On a feature. You're talking about 20, 30 days of production. You're talking about 10 to 15 locations. And you're talking about a lot of like the management scale is so large that like you cannot control freak your way through.
Everything,
you will die. Like physically, you don't have the time and energy to like tell everybody exactly what to do.
You have to trust.
You have to trust people, and you have to let go, and that means having the best people in place becomes even more important. So
you can trust.
So I think like you're forced to like grow as a filmmaker.
Do you think it's I have a theory. Actually, I won't say my theory. I want to know what you think. Do you think it's harder to make a short film or a feature length film?
Okay.
A good short film. Like, is it hard to make a good short film versus a good?
Really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard, and the reason is you don't have a lot of time to tell the story.
Right.
So every second has to be like
count. Yes.
has to be like perfect almost. And whereas a feature, there could be like 10 minutes in the feature that aren't great, but the movie's still really good.
Yes.
But you don't get that leeway. You can't have like 2 bad minutes in a short film.
You can't.
It's already, and it's like the attention span is so different when you're watching. And I tell this people all the time, because I feel like I've in the recent times, like in the last few years, actually maybe my whole like editing career, I've been this guy who will be the short film doctor, where people bring a short film that they're not happy with to me to fix.
Like in
as an editor.
post-production.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done that for so many, a lot of times they're first time filmmakers or they're whatever at different. And what I feel like is what people don't know, and it's about this question of shorts versus, because most people watch a ton of features. They don't watch a lot of shorts.
They don't.
So they don't know the format and like what works.
They don't know what to expect.
They don't know what to, And then with shorts, people are the audience is like, after a minute they're like already bored. Like their buy-in is different. Their expectation is different. So you're watching it and you're like, nothing's happening. Okay, cool, I'm bored. Whereas with the feature, 5-10 minutes can go by, almost nothing is happening, but you're like,
people are still invested.
yeah, like there's a different mindset.
Yeah.
You know, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Right.
So it's like you're like you're willing to wait to see what happens.
Yes.
If I send you a link to a short film, for example, you know, or you send a link to me,
right.
I'm like, after a minute, I'm like, where's this going?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. Dude, so many short films I'm on YouTube watching. Like,
what?
Next.
Yeah, but
like,
why don't you? So it's the mindset. So this is the thing that filmmakers don't get is that they're like they're coming in. No, but like let's build. It's like your thing is only 10 minutes long.
right.
You can't build it. Yeah.
If you're
Start
not.
up.
Yeah, if you're not like moving in 30 seconds, basically 30. And I want something interesting in like the first 30 seconds, basically. If it's only 10 minutes long, and if it's not, like people get bored. And like as an editor, I'm there to like fix that. I'm there to be like, look, you could start the film here, and it would be like better. And like we don't lose any of the exposition. Like we already know all this. Like we can assume all this, or like can we add some voiceover at the top to get people in quicker? Because sometimes like.
It's dragging.
It's just like the setup is just like there's a lot of problems with short films sometimes, but one of them, a lot of times it's like they don't start in the right place and nothing happens. Things don't happen fast enough.
Yeah.
And like it's about setting up. Oh my God, this is too much. I don't know if you guys want to hear.
Keep going.
I really think. Yeah. Man, I have a love and hate relationship with shorts because I think
they're hard.
In the beginning, you have to do it as a filmmaker, as an actor. You have to do short films, right? That's just non-negotiable. I think even as a filmmaker, the best experience is the shorts.
The reason people trusted me to make my feature was because they saw
your work.
Yeah,
that's
they knew
the
I
only
could
way.
direct a movie. Yeah.
So everybody has to. That's their starting platform. But I don't know, as a medium, to be honest with you, I don't enjoy short films as like a medium.
It's not a thing people watch,
right? Unless you go to film festivals.
But I like a good short film. To me is like so satisfying to see because they're so hard to do. Like a really good, like satisfying short film.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like I think everybody like we watch TV shows and movies. You know, I don't know people who are like sitting watching
short films.
And there's a reason too. It's like, look, if I watch.
Some people do like on Omletto, which is a huge short film platform. There's a couple other YouTube channels that are just known for short films.
Yeah, and
but that's a very niche audience.
Yeah,
you know.
I think there is an audience for it.
Definitely,
for sure.
You
go down a rabbit hole of short films, right? And then you go watch it for a few hours.
Cool,
but it's cool. But then it's like, am I gonna do this the same next day? Probably not. Maybe I'll turn Mr. Beast on. Or,
like Vimeo staff picks and like there's good shorts that you go or short of the week if you go.
Short of the week, yes.
Great short films like and they are great and it's like hard to do and it's like satisfying to watch. But let me like this is another thing. This is all psychological stuff. It's like have you been to like a short film festival?
Yes.
And you've sat and watched like 10 in a row, like in a program. Like you know when you sit and you watch.
It was a student short film festival. So
but like
I saw like 6 or 7 shorts
in a row, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going through? How do you feel? Like I'm not gonna prompt you. What do you feel about the experience of watching 6 or 7 short films in a row? Like in a program like that.
It depends because some of them are really good and then some of them are bad. So you're just like.
But do you feel like? But how do you feel like energy wise?
It doesn't excite me.
Do you feel drained or like
it can be?
Drained.
Yeah,
it can be draining.
Them, But like,
but if they're really good, if all of them are really good, I'm like, oh wow.
But why isn't that interesting though?
Yeah.
Because you could watch an hour of short films, maybe even an hour and a half of short films, and you feel way more drained than if you watched one feature. Technically, you've sat and watched the same amount of movie.
Why do you think that is?
Your brain is going through this quick turnover, right? And you're learning about, you're getting invested in these characters short amount of time, and then your brain's like, oh, next one.
Yep.
Next one.
You learn a whole new movie.
Yes.
So when we're watching a movie, we're learning to watch a movie. This is actually a part of filmmaking.
Character development. Yeah.
No, but like every movie works a little different, right? Like the style. The characters, the type of acting, the cinematography, the like sort of pace of it.
Yeah.
You're learning to like you have to ease into the experience of a movie, right? A short film is like you're by the time you've eased in, it's over.
Yeah.
You're like constantly relearning a film for
Quickly,
an hour
yeah.
and a half, it's tiring.
It's like investing in crypto, bro. We want immediate results. Versus if you invest in the S&P 500, you know, you like wait 5
Maybe,
years.
yeah.
But it's
okay,
guaranteed
keep going
results.
with this. I don't fully get your. I don't know if this analogy works, but
listen,
keep going.
The thing is, because with the S&P 500, you're buying in. You know there's something. You know it's a guaranteed return.
Oh, you mean like chaos and stress and
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Crypto, you're
like
expecting
psychological.
some
You expect like your money from $100 to $1,000. When that doesn't happen, you're like, what the hell? Bitcoin's a scam. But like, you know,
But even though like your percentage is way better.
Exactly. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? That's my
just want more.
point.
It's expectation.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you
Yes.
want more in a shorter period of time, and you feel like a failure.
Yeah.
If
you're not
even if
getting
you beat in the Nasdaq or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
that's interesting. Yeah. I think that's something to do with. Yeah. There's something there with that.
Yeah, something there. I'll work on it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to the editing.
But
I want to go back though.
Yeah,
So you went to NYU when you were 26.
Yeah, I
So
started.
you worked as an engineer in your 20s.
Yeah, early 20s to mid 20s.
I want to know. So in college, you were helping these kids make these skits.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
you were directing them,
Yeah,
camera
yeah.
work. Why the gap? Like, why didn't you just pursue that right after college?
I mean, it was complicated. Like I struggled to finish that degree, like academically. It was really, really hard.
The engineering degree?
Yeah. Like, I mean, at the time, like
Was it electrical engineer or mechanical?
biosystems.
Biosystems.
Yeah, biological
engineering.
systems.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of like anything related to systems related to anything biological. Okay, so it could be food engineering, it could be medical devices, it could be like anything that kind of interacts with like living things.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's what the degree was.
Yeah.
So it's a broader degree than like
highly
medical.
lucrative,
Yeah, it could be. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're good at it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the thing. Anything I wasn't really like, honestly, I wasn't great. And I knew I needed a change, and it just wasn't something. I think you need.
So why'd you pursue engineering from the get-go?
Oh, I mean, look, I have immigrant parents,
Okay.
and
That's mostly the route for people. Yeah.
and so it's like, I think I didn't when I coming into college, I was very interested in the arts, but I didn't have the conviction to like go all in at that time, because there's a threshold you need to reach as a brown person.
Yeah.
You need to reach a certain threshold where you're like, okay, I'm gonna I'm ready for this fight. And I wasn't really there yet. I wasn't ready to be like throw it all down and be like I really want to do this, because I have to make a case. It's like I have to make a case to my parents like what I'm trying to do and why. And I can't just do this and then like waffle on it and then later say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I knew that if I was gonna make do this thing that they didn't want me to do, then I had to be sure about it myself.
Right.
And I wasn't sure about it myself at that time. I was still like, I was doing all these different, I was doing music. I was like in a band a little bit. Like I was like playing guitar. I was like acting a little bit. I was directing a little bit. I was editing. I was just doing so many different things that it was like hard for myself to know what I was trying to do, what I wanted to do. And I was young. I started college when I was 17. Okay. So I was like, I just didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm kind of like math. I kind of like biology. This major seems to make sense, and it's and like it just was like a default. It's like I was on default settings as a brown kid, and my default settings were like engineer. You know what I mean? I hadn't chose to override the default. You have to like choose
to choose.
Yeah, the active choice wasn't there, and so that's why. And I just was already in the major. Yeah. And my friends were in that. Like I had like friends, all like my brown friends were in engineering, so it was like fun in that sense, because like I didn't like what we were learning, but I liked my friend group that was also doing it.
No, I mean it's totally understandable.
Yeah.
I mean, but the good thing is you chose to like dive out of it. Imagine how many people are still sitting in that position, medical devices,
and they
not
hate
wanting
it.
to.
Yeah,
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So it's a God blessed.
No.
I
I think it happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
I think that's what your early 20s are for.
Yeah, you gotta
to
try
really
stuff.
figure something out. And if you don't feel like you're there, it's okay. You have time.
I think your early 20s are really to just get solidified in one thing and never make a change.
Just
live with it and then die.
Deal with it.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
You were 24 and you committed your life.
Yeah.
You signed off.
No, yeah, there's something to that, maybe.
The thing is,
yeah.
I think the reason why it's so hard for a lot of brown people is it's getting a lot better now. I think
it's different now.
I think you guys, your generation, you guys had it the hardest because at that time
there was nobody to say, hey.
Nobody. Like maybe
that
Russell Peters, but he does comedy. You know, that's the only guy.
Yeah, I was like Russell Peters.
That brown people
And he was new then.
And he was new.
Yeah.
Like, he was barely, and he's making fun of his parents all the time.
Yeah. They're like, we don't like that. Parents were like, don't be like him.
All he does is make fun of him.
Yeah, exactly. Anything but Russell Peters.
Man, that was classic. Dude, that was
Don't you dare make fun of me on stage.
Somebody Gonna Get Hurt is classic.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I don't know if you saw. Oh, okay. That's a bit that he did that was like it
the
was
2000s though.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
it was like early, really like 2002 or something. And it was just.
I was still learning how to talk then.
Oh man, yeah, it was like huge generation gap. But it was like it was a special that he did that it didn't matter if you were brown, Asian, white, Latino, like it just didn't matter who you were. You saw that special.
It was international.
That Russell Peters special was like. Because I think he like hit on enough racial groups in it, and it just broke through. It was just the funniest kind of like pirated, like it was like a thing you downloaded. Because I don't even know where you would get it legally, but at the time you would just download on like torrents or whatever, and it was just like a special like everybody was like watching.
Interesting.
And so it was a big deal actually. But
the thing is, your generation really pioneered a way. Because now, God willing, like, you know, once Mustache is out and other films, people will be able to say, oh, look, Imran J Khan has already done this. I can do this too.
Yeah.
When is Mustache coming out, by the way?
Soon. That's all I can say.
Okay.
There's stuff churning. Yeah. And good. I hope to. Yeah, very good news soon.
I want to know how
God willing.
The story came about. I know it's your personal experience as well.
Yeah,
but
it's based on a lot of what we're talking about, to be honest, and like creative journey. Like it's based loosely on my creative journey. Like I went to, when I was up until 8th grade, I went to a private Islamic school, and which was like a whole experience. Like
in the Bay Area.
Yeah, in the Bay Area. And then I went to public high school, and then when I was in high school, like I discovered theater. And so the movie's like ripped from those experiences. It's changed like the timeline of it, and like the like obviously it's fictionalized, and it's like, but the experience is really true to me, and the experience is really true to like how I grew up, and like how I discovered like kind of like my identity, and also my like interest in the arts. And so that's where the movie came from, was like, hey, I think this weird part of my life that I've shut out, which is like the most awkward point in my life, going from this very like a sheltered Islamic school, private school, to like public high school, was like the weirdest like the most awkward transition for myself. Also going to like where everybody's like a place where everybody's like brown or Muslim or like similar to my identity, and then going to a place where like I was like the only like one of like 4 brown kids in like at least South Asian in my high school. Like it was a mainly white and Asian high school, and there's just no other South Asians. Like, and so to go to be that like out of like fish out of water for me was like a really awkward transition. And I was like, I think that awkwardness is like, there's so much comedy there, and also like it's like the thing I don't want to write about is probably the thing I should write about. And so then that's where the movie was birthed, was like, oh, I think I should like write something about that period in my life. And
it's like moving to a new country almost,
right? It was
shock.
like that. It's like a culture shock. Even though I like grew up in America, like I was born and I grew up in America, but like it was like, I think sometimes it did represent a sort of cultural difference, a cultural migration or
a lot of people have this experience though, and so like I think identifying that and actually creating it, it's going to resonate with a lot of people. Even though you're like, maybe I don't want to talk about it. It's just it's a healthy thing to do, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, and then when I like, people who have seen the movie are like, they're like, oh, I went through this exact same thing in this other way, you know, the specifics might be different, and like, but I went through this, and like your movie like was so dead on for that experience, even though their experience, like, they could be of a different background. They could be of a, and I think that's the power of movies, is that people, like, if you dig deep enough into a specific experience, it becomes universal. And like,
that's fair.
I've really lived that, because I wrote this thing and I was like, I don't know if I think this is too like specific maybe, and like maybe nobody cares about this, and then it's just like people like loved the script and people wanted to make the movie, and that was like almost like shocking to me, because I was like, I thought I was writing this just like for myself almost.
Oh wow.
And I was like, if nobody cares about this, fine, I have like an editing career, I have other things I'm doing. And
so it's a creative exercise.
I mean, it was like, I went to film school, I studied writing and directing, and then I was like very deep in an editing career, and I just felt like I should give myself one more shot to like direct something. And so I wrote a thing just to like, if anybody cares about this, if somebody cares about this, then maybe I'll make it.
Yeah.
If not, I have this other thing going on, I'm just gonna do that. Okay. And then so it was like, let me just try. And maybe because of that freedom, I gave myself like, hey, I don't even really need to show anybody this. If they don't, if nobody wants it, nobody wants it. And that led to something that like people actually resonate. Like, it resonated with people, and then they were like excited about making it, and then it kind of changed my trajectory. Like, that's how I got like my reps and everything, was through writing that film.
What was that moment where you were like, oh, this is a script, this is a story that is meant for the screen? Was it a series of moments?
I was on a plane.
To where?
I was flying from San Jose to LA.
Interesting.
Southwest.
Okay. It's a short flight.
Yeah, it's a short flight, but on that flight, I was like, I just had this like, I sketched out a memory, which was like, I remembered as a kid having seen Terminator 2 Judgment Day, and when I would be like learning like when I'd be learning things about Islam, and they would talk about Judgment Day, I would think about Terminator 2. Okay. Like, that confusion of like metal robots and the lasers and was like, it's like the imagery sort of joined in my mind, and I thought that was really funny, and I was like, oh, so then I had a character, and I just wrote this voiceover about that. Just that like experience of like, and I was like, that's a character. Like, it like, I knew it was a character. Like, the voiceover, writing that voiceover out with like sketching out, like, you know, that it always makes me think about Terminator 2. I was like, oh, that's a really like specific joke, but also like a character point of view. I realized I had a point of view. There was a point of view with that character that like, now like it unlocked something. It's like, oh, this is like a kid growing up with different identities, and they're like swirling in his head, and it was like, oh, that's something. And then I didn't look at it for a long time. I wrote it on that plane. Like, I wrote a scene basically on that
like a monologue
plane.
kind of.
Yeah, it was like voiceover and some like imagery of like how, and it's actually like in the movie. This part is
right.
Yeah. But I put it away, and I started thinking of like what this movie could be about. Like, what's the story of this movie? Is it about this? Is it about that? Like, what is he doing? What is he? And I thought, oh, it's about him going from Islamic school to public. So it was like broad strokes I was figuring out, and then I would like voice note myself the whole movie, like describing like the movie, like freestyle. Like, if you had to just improvise a movie, that's a way to write. Actually, is just like, what happened? Like, press record, and I'll just like, tell me the story. Like, you're just improvising your way through to like figure out, and then at the end this happens, and then that, you know, like I did that in the car. Like, I'd be like driving around LA, and I'd be like, okay, let me just like freestyle on the movie, and it's a way to trick yourself into it. Yeah,
you go back to those recordings and you listen to them.
I've never heard them since then. I mean, I heard them later, like at around that time, but I should go back and listen.
But it helped you form what you're gonna write.
Because it's probably really different now. But there was like main things. I was like, oh, I think he should be like at a mosque fundraiser doing a performance at the end of the movie. Like these are things that like I had conceived of way back
driving through
before.
LA.
Yeah, just before even writing. I was like, oh, that'd be really funny and weird. And like, what would that be like? What would he do on stage and like perform a play or like what? And people would be like, what the hell is this? Like, I these are things I had in my head like way back then.
Yeah.
And then, but obviously, there's even those broad strokes. It takes a lot to like then figure out a story. And so then I was in a writer's group and I started like working on the actual script. And so, but it was a long period from having that plain epiphany to then a first draft was probably, I want to say like a year and a half or something. It was like a long time. Right. It wasn't like right away I just like got on a keyboard and was like churn, because I had to like, it was like a lot of marinating time for me, like to figure out what the movie was. And I watched a lot and I read a lot of scripts during that time, like of movies that were like coming of age or just similar tonally or whatever. And I you know, I still, you know, I like watch a lot of movies just like to get inspiration. And then I like started writing it. And
how long was the whole journey from that epiphany on the plane to having it made and then post-production?
Geez, when was that? 2018, 2017, 2018 was when that plane epiphany happened. And then we finished it in 2022, 2023, basically 2023.
So like 5 years.
Yeah. Which is not that long,
That's
I guess.
not that
like
long
a finished movie, a finished feature from like an idea, like
completion.
Like so it feels like a long time, like I guess.
But
it's not.
Because
I guess
a lot of people when they see film, they don't realize how long it takes.
Yeah.
Like the final.
But some people work for movies for 10 years, like to make one feature. So,
sometimes like decades. If you see Boyhood, like they track those characters.
That's crazy. Yeah.
It's insane.
But people don't know how, like, just to write a movie. I mean, it took me 2 years before a producer attached. So
somebody optioned your
I was
script?
writing it for 2 years before the first producer attached, and then another 2 years to get financing. So there were like 4 years. So there's like 1 year to kind of to go from idea to like first draft, and then like 2 years of like to then somebody coming on, and then 2 years to get financing to go and then shoot it. So it's like it's a long, you know, you have to be ready for the marathon, and then you have to be like interested in an idea long enough to stick with it, right?
Yes.
Like you can't be like halfway through like I don't like this anymore.
Because all those years you just spent on.
But I knew I was like like even from that first plane, I was like I remember getting off the plane. My brother-in-law it was a plane. I was on the plane with my brother-in-law, and he's a TV writer. Shout out Saber Pirzada. He's a super talented writer. And he I remember getting off the plane and I was like, I have an idea for a movie. I have like after that, just that realizing that thing. I was like, oh, I wrote like something and I'm like, I think it's a movie. And he's like, oh, cool. And then but like I remember being that sure about it. Like this is a movie. Like whatever this character is a movie, this is a movie. Like tonally, like this there's something here. And then took like forever to like.
How did the financing portion work? Did you have to crowdfund or how did you?
No, so it's pretty traditional in terms of like industry. Like at that point, because I had a big name producer attach, and then he brought Christopher Storr, and so he brought his agency. Then was gonna like package the film. It was just UTA.
Okay. And
so his agency at the time, and so so then basically there's like what happens is there's like they're representing the film, like the agency's also representing the film, and so
that rights to sell it or the script or
no, but the producer does.
Producer, right?
Yeah.
So you optioned your script? Is that?
Yeah, a version of that. Okay. We did a shopping agreement.
Gotcha.
There you can do you can option or do a shopping agreement. A shopping agreement basically like, hey, I have permission to go try to like get financing for this project in this certain time period and whatever, and then we'll like negotiate whatever the terms are at that point. You're like,
got it.
You're like pushing the negotiation to later, but they still have permission to like
negotiating a prenup after you get married. Is it kind of like that?
Kind of, but it's like there's
because you don't have the terms.
Yeah, you don't even know if anybody's gonna want to you can, it's either, there's pros and cons, by the way. It's like depends on the situation what you should do or whatever. But basically then now we're getting set up, like it's like via him, via the agency. Now we're like going around town, like we're talking to people who make movies like this, like we're talking to people who finance independent films that are like $1 to like $6-7 million, like that kind of a budget area. And so our movie's somewhere in that budget, and so it's like we're talking to those people, and there's, you know, and so it's like a small industry, I guess. Like there's only like, you know, I don't know, 10 places that like make small films. And like, and they could be, you can go to like, at that time you could still go to like Netflix with something like this. But anyway, we ended up getting financing with a kind of like a company, and then it was like different people putting money together. So you get a piece of money from different people or whatever. And so in that way, it's kind of traditional. You go around, you talk about the film, people read the script, they think about it. I cut together a sizzle for the film to show people, and then I had like a lookbook. And we had the script, and we were just going around, and then you know, there were like a lot of close calls. There was like a year earlier, like I think in 2021, where somebody was like really interested in making the movie, and they were awesome, and I was like, and then there was a conflict with my producer having to shoot like a pilot for something, which that pilot became The Bear.
Holy shit.
But anyway, so he was gonna go make that show, and so there was a close call where we were like, they were like, look, we can cut you like a huge chunk of your budget, and then you have to fill in the rest, but we could go make this movie this summer. And the reason we had to make the movie in the summers is because of kids. My movie has a ton of kids in it, and so there's like a whole thing. So and then he was busy, he couldn't do it, and so then that didn't happen because they wanted us as a team. It was like, obviously makes sense. It's like, I'm a first-time filmmaker. They want somebody to be there to
structure it, and
or just like
guide you,
guide me and stuff. And I was like, and so since he wasn't, it fell through, and then somebody else came in later, and so, you know, it's like a long, that happens. Like to make an independent film, you're like, you have money, you lost the money, you have money, you lost the money. It's like because companies go bankrupt. So many things can happen in the years you're trying to make your movie, or all of a sudden they can't put the money in that they thought they could, or whatever. Like things, independent financing is like,
crazy.
Is a roller coaster in and of itself. And so you're always like, I was always just like, look, I'll like kind of deal with this movie, because I was working on Space Jam at the time. I was working and then I went to Disney. I was doing I had like a lot of professional stuff going on. And so I was like, look, I'll deal with this. If this movie's getting made, great. But I'm not gonna like, you know, you kind of have to temper your expectations. You have to be like, look, if it happens, it happens, and not get your hopes up too much, because you'll just like, you'll be so stressed out like through. So I was like, look, if it happens,
for the best, expect the worst.
And so I just kind of went along until people were like their money's there. We're basically going to be in pre-production in like a couple of months, and that's when I like basically told Disney like, hey, I think I'm going to step away to do this movie.
What year did you shoot it?
What
year did you shoot the film?
2022.
22, gotcha.
The summer of 2022.
Summer 2022.
Yeah, which is not so long ago, but yeah.
See, so it's a long journey, like, to make a film.
Yeah, now we're still in distribution, so it's like, geez. And then we premiered in 2023 at South by Southwest.
That's amazing.
And
that is awesome.
And yeah, it was pretty quick, because we had wrapped the film that fall.
Oh wow!
And we premiered in March. So
you edited in
a couple of months. Yeah, 2-3 months. Yeah.
Did you edit it yourself, or?
No, I had a really talented editor, Harrison Atkins, who just did an amazing job, and he was, because of that timeline, we knew it was going to be really packed to try to submit to the festivals we wanted to. He had started cutting while we were in production. which is a good way to do it because you have somebody looking at all the footage that you're shooting.
Yeah.
And so I would like talk to him every week and be like, hey, like,
That's really
how do you
smart,
feel about
actually.
what we're shooting and stuff like that. And so he was cutting. And so when I got back from, we shot in Toronto. So when I got back from Toronto and was in the edit, I think like a week later, he had an assembly of the whole film done. Because he was already been working on it since. So that's a way to, that's a good,
awesome. Okay.
You know, if you need to speed up your post process,
Just shoot
you
during
can
production.
have somebody like cutting while you're shooting, basically. And so
Was that a deliberate creative choice on your end? Because you edit as well.
it's a timeline thing. Oh, well, one, I wanted an editor because I was like, look, in the end, I could always get my hands dirty and like do like hey, cut there. Like as a director, I could always be like, hey, cut there, do this, do that. Like I can speak that language and be like, hey, look, like get what I want kind of. And I have all my own ideas, right? But I don't have somebody else's ideas. So I was like, if somebody can come and like now we have double the ideas basically. I have the editor's all his creative ideas and I have all my creative ideas. So to me it was just a plus to have a collaborator. Right. It's like trust and all that. It's fair. Like, look, I want somebody to like who wasn't on set, who doesn't have the trauma and the baggage of like the stress of those days.
Because sometimes you get attached to scenes because of just how ridiculous it was.
It was hard to make. Exactly. It was hard to shoot it, or like for whatever reason.
Or you have emotional attachment.
Yeah, emotional attachment, and you want somebody to be like, no, I think you should just do this, and or like cut that out, or it's good. Sometimes there was stuff that I was like, does this look bad? Like, tell me. Does this is this a bad performance here? Is this scene like bad or whatever? Because and then he'll be like, no, dude, it looks good. Yeah. Because I have negative association with the on that day, thinking that it looked fake to me or something. Yeah. Right. Like the set looked fake to me or something. And he's looking at he's looking at it, he's like, no, it looks great. So you know what I mean? Like and
the editor is
so
the audience,
useful.
essentially.
Right. Yeah, because he doesn't know how you shot it, what happened, who worked on what. He doesn't know. And that's actually a blessing. That's like a good thing. And I've been in that position, right? Because I'm usually the editor who doesn't know what happened on set and is just like, it's good, do this, cut this out, or add, and so I knew the value of an editor because I am an editor. So I knew that I wanted an editor. Like I know what they can bring to the table. And like I said, worst case, I just I can do stuff myself because I have all the ability as in terms of technical, you know what I mean?
Right. But I want to ask you a question. So I was watching one of your interviews and you said something really interesting. Somebody asked you, what was one of your regrets? And you said going for the safe choice instead of the bold choice.
Oh, yeah.
So when do you know that moment is happening on set, or do you realize that afterwards?
That's a really good question.
Thank you.
Dude, this is where no.
This guy has like this ego with people telling him he has good questions.
Oh, he loves that.
Look, that joke would be
there should be like a counter.
Yeah. Russell with a counter
that goes up.
Tell him that was the shittiest question I heard of my life. That's what you have to tell him.
No, that's a really good. I think this is the thing, and I've been post Mustache. I've been like interrogating my process so much more, like how I work, how I'm creative, how do you come up with ideas, like how do you, and one of the things I'm realizing, and it's related to what you're saying, is like, or what you're asking, is like, you gotta like be so, as an artist, you have to be so in tune with your gut and listen to it, okay, and like trust that, like, hey, if something feels wrong or like, you know, you have to have like a clear line of communication between you and your instincts. Yeah. And the thing is, when you go and you like learn filmmaking, when you learn stand-up comedy, when you learn whatever creative craft, a lot of times you stop listening to your instincts because you're like checking things through analytical, like, does this work? Yeah. But there's this gut thing that's just like, this is funny to me. Yeah. Or this is dramatic to me, or this is interesting to me. Like as a filmmaker, you're like, oh, this moment is interesting to me, or this line of dialogue, or it's like, this is boring, or this is like so like safe, for example. Like this is like not, and what I've realized is like you have to be honest with yourself when you don't like something. And it's all related, because it's like when you like something or dislike something, you need that has to be coming from a really pure place within you, and you have to be able to access that immediate as a director.
Yeah.
Like all you're doing is being like, do I like this or not, all day as a director. And I think about the safe versus the bold choice, it is exactly that, because a lot of times I'd be on set and I'd be like, I'm kind of like, yeah, technically this is how we should do this, but it's kind of like, it's boring to me. And I could just stay the course because everything's set up for that. Everybody's wants to do that. Everybody's ready to do that version of it. But then there's if you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know if I like this. It's like, you got to say something. Yeah. And it's a hard thing to sometimes, because like people have maybe put a lot of work into one idea. But if you're just like, look, if I don't know, like, I think this is too simple or safe. Like, can we do something more dynamic here? Then you got to listen to that. You got to listen to that voice inside yourself, whatever you want to call that, like that instinct. And I think like the more you kind of purify the link between your like brain and your like instincts, and like that line of communication is like direct, the more you can like make these bold decisions. Have you seen a lot of movies? I think you have to trust that I've seen enough movies, and I have enough experience to trust my instinct.
You have to overcome the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right? It's a constant battle. It never really ends. At least for me as an artist, like I feel like
the situations where where you just like go along with stuff and then later regret it, is you learn from that too.
Like as an artist, something like I've been slowly coming to terms with is it's okay to have a bunch of bad ideas.
Yeah.
Like it's totally fine. But you have to have the sense to see that it's a bad idea.
Curation.
Yes, curation. There you go. And you have to be dynamic, like you said, with those ideas.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to be sturdy.
No.
If you're sturdy,
no.
it's gonna be like it's gonna be
mechanical.
Yes.
Soulless.
Mechanical and technical.
Yeah,
and it won't have that
the
heart
magic
that the art demands.
The magic is like the randomness of something, or like that spontaneity.
Yeah.
Like there were so many things even on Mustache where it was like where we would have a plan for something, and then on the day when we were looking, and I'd look at the rehearsal and we'd like think about it, I'd be like, oh man, just like cut this line of dialogue, or like rewriting dialogue, or okay, what if we, instead of do this, we do like we shoot it differently, or like or this feels like I think you have to have that, and then have the like fearlessness to just do it, because you can be scared and like, what if I'm ruining it? What if I should I stick to the plan?
Yeah.
Because we've thought about that for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
Or do I just do something in the moment that feels exciting to me? Honestly, I think you should just do something exciting in the moment.
Why not?
Because you're there, and it's like it's like the electricity of like just doing something that you find amusing in the moment is so hard to like recreate with too much planning. The plan is good because you need a plan. You need to show up with a plan, some structure, and like, okay, how are we gonna? But I think the magic is always just like, okay, in the moment, just like come up with something, or like
that's the stuff people always remember, the ad libs.
A little bit of flavor. Because structurally, I also got to a point with my script where I was like, okay, I trust the script, like the structure of the story, the like characters. Like I don't think like that's set in stone. It's not going to really change, even if I like have fun in the scene and like do something weird. Yeah. So like the story's the story. So if you can do something exciting in the scene, I think it'll make the movie better than like being rigid about like what the script exactly said to do.
Do you feel like your experience as an actor helped you a lot in directing actors?
That's a good question. I mean, I had only really acted when I was in high school, and then a little bit in college, and then like I took a lot of acting classes in film school.
You did?
Well, you have to.
Yeah.
Like NYU's program is like you kind of have to learn everything. So you do a lot of acting classes, you do directing class, and you do directing actor classes, and then you do so I had experience as an actor only via those scattered experiences. That's huge though,
acting classes. I mean,
but yeah, it does help a lot. I mean, you just need to understand what the actor needs. The way I think about directing is like you need to give everybody what they need to be creative. I don't need to like force my creativity on somebody else. I don't even think that works really, because everybody has their own impulses and their own. What I want is I want to create the environment so that the actor can create their performance.
Right.
Be creative with the choices, with their thing, but I need to create the parameters. So I need to give them the tools. I need to give them the circumstances of what's happening. What are they doing? Where do they come from? Like, that's me as a director having to give them the tools that they need. Then they can launch off and be like, okay, I'm going to make this creative choice based on the tools that the director's given me. And sometimes with child actors, their needs are different.
Yeah.
Some child actors, they just need, like if they're inexperienced kid actors, they need to be literally told how to say it. Okay? And that also is giving them what they need to then be creative. Yeah. Because now he can have fun with the thing, and he's not like, am I saying this right? Yeah. No, I've already told you how to say it.
That's very challenging.
Now have fun now have fun in the scene, because you know how to say it now. If what I notice sometimes with child actors is they're so scared about not saying the lines right that they're not even like alive in their scene, what they're doing. So now I need to remove that. I need to remove the anxiety over the lines. So I take them to the side. Let's just run it. Me and you will do it like 10 times. Back and forth. Nobody's here. It's just me and the actor. And this is like a 12-year-old that I'm working with. So
he was 12 your lead at the time of filming?
He was 13, but like there were other kids that are even different ages or whatever.
That's really young.
So sometimes I'm taking this kid, a different kid. Not my lead was like incredible. I think he has a photographic memory and like all that. Like he was a different level of child actor. For sure. Like, I mean, I'm not even blowing smoke. Like, Atharv like is like, he's like something else. Atharv Verma, who played the lead in my film. But some of the other actors who had just a couple lines here and there, it's like you need to give them the tools that they need. And sometimes the tool that they need is they need to be taken to the side and they need to just run the lines so they get so comfortable with the lines that when we're on camera, they don't freeze up. Right? I'm giving them what they need to be creative. I'm not thinking about it as I'm telling him what to do. I'm actually just giving him what does he need to do this in a creative, where he can then bring his own self to it. Yeah. And sometimes that's just an actor just needs circumstance. Like really good actors, they literally just need to know, who am I? What am I? Where am I? What have I come from? And what am I trying to do in this scene? Yeah. And you tell them that, and they go and they give you magic.
So did you write backstories for the characters, or did
I write backstories?
Because sometimes directors do that, just to help the actors, and sometimes actors just do it themselves.
No, I didn't do a ton of that, but I think. But I had conversations. I think a lot of conversations with, especially Rizwan Manji, who played the dad. We had a ton of conversation about like who this dad was and like how he like, and I think that's a reason that like he was able to like bring a really great performance out was because we did have those deeper conversations about like what kind of a person he was, what kind of a dad he was, what are his stresses and anxieties, like all that. I had a lot of conversations with the lead, but he kind of just dialed in and got it too. Like the script is so from that character's point of view that there's enough in the script that really tells you who this kid is, that like he just like understood. And I think he's also like a 13-year-old South Asian kid. So he just like with immigrant parents, right? With immigrant parents. So it's like he gets like so much about it just by his lived experience that like he was just there, he understood like trying to be different things to different people. He understood all that, but yeah.
That's important. Yeah. Somebody that's embodying the character itself can really like help the script, right?
Yeah.
Especially help the movie. I mean, if you are that character, then it's like, why this is like the perfect person for me. Yeah.
They just need to be themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now as a director, you're casting something. Can they like? I know this person is like identity wise and even life experience wise similar to the character in the script, but can they do that on camera? So that's a different question, right? Not everybody can like then take that and do that on camera. They get on camera and then they're just like, what? And then you're like, what? Well, we can't work with this. Like, I don't know what to do with you now. Like, that's why you still need to audition somebody, right? It's not just about like who they are. It's actually like, can they do that? Can they be themselves on camera? And once you answer that question, you're like, oh, you're off to the races. Because this kid can be authentic on camera and bring his like life experience to it. Dude, you're gonna get something like magical from this kid. But sometimes there were kids who were like, oh man, this kid's so good, but I don't think he can be what the script, he's something else and the script is something else. And now I was a director, I have a choice. Do I try to force this kid, or even any actor, I'm saying kid because I had a lot of kid actors, but it could be an adult actor too. Do I force this actor in and try to get them to be like what the script is, the character is in the script, or do I just adapt the film to who this actor is?
Right.
And my instinct is usually to do the former, which is to like, look, screw the script.
Yeah.
Whatever this actor is doing is so interesting. I want to just adapt the movie to fit what this actor's doing, and I think you get a better performance that way.
That's amazing.
He's gonna do a better justice.
Yeah. Then like, look, like if you have like a lot of different types of people. Like if you have like a person who's like very cool, okay, just naturally, you're like this person cannot play the nerd or whatever. And let's say in the script, I need this. Whatever, vice versa, whatever, like different types of people, different types of like personality types, and you're like, oh, this is not gonna, nobody's gonna like go, like no matter how much I direct this actor, I'm not gonna get that result. And to do that is almost like, and some directors try, right? And that's why I think when you get like weird, like amateur performances, it's like not the actor's fault. They're just like cast wrong.
Just forcing somebody.
They're forcing them to be something they can't be. They don't have the experience for it. They don't have the lived experience, whatever. And so, but if you just are like, hey, wait a minute, what if this? Like, I changed the script a little bit.
Yeah.
And instead, it's like this, I make this character like how this person is. Yeah. And I just change some dialogue, and I like change how, you know what I mean? There's a way you can still, you might even get something more interesting because it's like less expected.
Right.
Because you're like, hey, I'm going to literally put the opposite type person into this story that I had envisioned. And like sometimes that creates a different kind of magic. And now you get this like amazing, authentic performance because they get to be who they are, and you're not fighting against type and stuff like that. But yeah.
So you did theater in high school, went off to college, you did some videos, you majored in systems engineering, biosystems, and then you worked, and then you went to film school. Yeah. Where does stand-up fall into that?
That's a really good question. So
that's
when I was
3 really good questions.
20, yeah. Oh, great.
I'm counting.
Number 2, yeah.
That's third one. It's a hat trick. There you go.
Yeah. We got to get a third one in before the end of this. Stand up. So I've always liked stand up. Yeah. I mean, I grew up watching specials with my brother, like Chappelle and Chris Rock. Like Chris Rock was like watching his specials was like a big deal when I was like really young.
Is that your go?
One of them for sure. I mean, Rock for sure. Like I don't think I'll ever, like he's like even his latest special, like I just think he's like one of the smartest and just like heavy hitting comedians.
Cool
but
guy,
there's different types, right? It's like different types of music. For me, comedy's like music. It's like sometimes there's hard rock, there's hip hop, there's jazz.
What category is Chris Rock?
I'm not making that analogy.
No. I want to know. I'm curious.
But I'm just saying.
If you were to in music terms,
I think he's like. I'm
just curious. Yeah.
I want to say he's like a classic, like a classic like rock and roll band. Okay, in the sense that he can play a huge venue. He can do the arena. And he's Steven Tyler. Like he can do the arena. Yeah. He is, I feel like generationally has traversed a large. It's like people grew up with him, and then there's people who have been introduced to him,
and they're still amazed.
And I think he transcends, like it's like the Beatles or something, right? It's like they transcend He transcends generation a little bit. He's a little bit for everybody, right? Like he can be like you know different people have different favorite rock bits, right? Yeah. Some people it's gonna be like black people versus N-words. You know what I mean? Like, for some people it's that bit. Yeah. For somebody else, it might be like one of his newer, well, what does he do? I don't know. You know,
the Luigi.
No. It's a bit he does about Chris Rock has a bit about like only that man, I'm gonna misquote this, but it's like only like women, men love women unconditionally.
Oh.
Women only love men conditionally.
Yeah. That was in his recent special, right?
Yeah. And it's an amazing bit. Like, but that's like a newer bit. But it's also like somebody might know him from that bit. And
that's
be like,
2023. Yeah.
And
he's been doing it since.
But he's been doing it since the
80s.
80s. Yeah. I mean, he's on SNL like back in the day. Like, I mean, it's just so he's to me. Like,
I see what you mean.
A classic rock band, or that he can like. He can adapt to the age, but he's still hitting hard.
He still got it.
He's still got like he can
So you grew up...
hit hard and he can take a hit as we
Yes.
Right,
very amicable.
We're gonna clip that just right now.
We're gonna tag at Chris Rock.
Yeah.
He's a hit, and he's gonna hit.
A heavy hitter and he can take hits.
I've never thought about comedy like that in music.
No, it's like music.
Really
and some people are like jazz, right? They're improv. It's a crowd work. Jazz is the crowd work. Like, so if you're really good at crowd work, you're not really like, you're like a jazz comedian, right? You're just sort of like, can I just play with the audience and like
jive with them?
Yeah, jive with them. And it's like, it's not really about like telling like a long story or like really sophisticated punchlines necessarily. It's more about like, can I just like groove with the audience and like find comedy.
Wait, I have 2 more comedian names that I want to ask.
Okay. Like, who are they?
Yeah, this is really cool. Okay, so Dave Chappelle, what type is he?
Chappelle is like, he's like savant type comedian.
Okay.
So like I think he's like
Beethoven?
No.
That's a good one.
He's too out of left field.
Yeah.
Like his takes are just like no one's gonna have that take except Chappelle, right? So
he's like Elvis.
Takes. It's like, what is that musically? Actually, who's like a musician or like an artist that's like
Bob Dylan?
Kanye?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, Kanye.
Oh,
actually,
I mean,
it's a weird person. The personality. I don't.
Did I hear that right? Dave Chappelle's a Kanye?
No, don't clip that.
Of comedy? Hold on a second. Dave Chappelle, brother.
No, we're not. No. I think what I mean is like the innovation.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's like the point of view in terms of innovation. Like almost like nobody has the same bits as Chappelle. Like 100 comedians can talk about the same political issue, the same
He'll have a different take.
thing. He's gonna have a take that's like only Chappelle will have, and I think that's like why he's Chappelle. But I don't know how you would. I can't think
Rank
of a music.
musically?
Yeah, like what would that be?
It's tough.
Yeah.
I think Kanye is the closest.
Yeah. Because he doesn't make his own genres. Almost. Like Kanye makes his own genres. Like,
and he makes them cool.
The third one was your friend Hasan Minhaj.
Hasan Minhaj.
What is he musically?
Oh, what is Hasan musically? He's
He'll
like,
definitely see this.
Yeah, I know. No, I don't,
probably not.
We're so deep in the podcast now.
Yeah.
Nobody's watching it.
Nobody's watching.
So I think it's like
my dad's still watching.
Yeah,
my dad watches all the episodes.
So as long as you don't piss off your dad, I think we're fine. We can say like anything. No, I think like I think what Hasan's always been like. I'm gonna just describe him as a comedian, and we'll figure out the musician from there. What he's always been as a comedian to me is somebody who can command a big audience. Even back when we were doing South Asian culture shows, he could go out on stage and he was like larger than life in his personality and his like mannerisms and his like he was able to like get a huge crowd, like 1,000 people. I've seen him like even in college, like in front of like 1,000 people, and like you know, do something big enough that it reached the whole room.
So he had like a stage presence.
Yeah, he just has he has a big personality and and he still has that, you know, and I think that's why one of the reasons he's so successful. But comedically he's like this interesting mix between like a college professor and the way he like breaks down like complicated things.
Patriot Act.
Yeah, like there's like a college professor debate team sort of like energy to like the way his comedy is, and then there's just like this like and then he contrasts that really well with just like absurdity. So I mean that's all comedy is, sort of taking something kind of logical and then like mixing it with something absurd, and then you find. But I think that's what he is to me. Like he's like a big.
He's like Harry Styles.
Maybe. Oh
bit.
yeah,
He does
maybe.
that a little,
He's
you know,
kind
his
of
music.
yeah.
I was gonna say Zayn
little
Malik, but
absurdity,
you know,
yeah.
that's a little.
But who's like
What did you say?
Zayn Malik?
Yeah, I was like, that's just like a
yeah,
brand.
who are I don't know, maybe like what are musical I mean, I feel like he's I don't know. It's so hard to do the analogy between music and comedy.
I really tested you on
yeah,
that.
it's like it's hard because they're not the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like you're trying to take like it's like if we were talking about like 16th century painters and being like, okay, like what pop star was
Chappelle.
yeah, it's a little hard to like.
But listen, it's very interesting for you to say that Hasan always had this thing in him because
even back then I was like, dude, this guy's
this is when
like
he was really new in comedy. Like he was like
he was starting out back then,
Yeah.
and he was kind of doing it like secretly. Like I think not everybody knew he was even doing stand up,
right.
but he was like at that time his ambition was so much more than me that I was like, oh, this guy like just like wanting to do things like let's do this, let's do that, let's put on a show on our thing and be like, okay, cool. And like I was there to like help and make it happen. Like let's make a short film. And like cool. And so I was like directing, but he was like this driving force of like, what's the next thing we're gonna do? Let's go do this. Let's shoot something. Let's do the sketch. Let's put on a show at our college. Let's do that. He was the guy, and he just continued to be that person. I don't think he's different now. I think he just kept increasing that like
Scale.
Yeah, the scale of like what he wanted to do, but like that was the thing he always had. And so it's like back then his like stand-up comedy may not have been as sophisticated as it is now.
Yeah.
But the ambition and the drive to keep doing it and to get better and better and better was there from day one. You know, and and so we would put on shows, and that's where we're talking about comedy. We like
like how you started.
Yeah, and that's how I started. So yeah, I started because I was just interested in comedy. So I would watch stuff with my brother and whatever, and then new Chris Rock special out. Cool, let's watch it. Like I was like enough in comedy to like know about big comedians. Watched SNL a lot, like all of that. And then but then Hasan was doing stand up, and I was like so like intrigued by like a brown dude
who's not Russell Peters.
Who's not Russell Peters. Who's like trying to be a comedian. I just didn't know anybody who was doing that, and it was so impressive to me. I was like so impressed by him that he would go have the guts to go and do that. Because it's like when you're starting out, it takes a lot of guts to just be like, I'm gonna go up there with a microphone.
It's gonna be silence.
And there's it's hard to go up there and bomb or whatever. And so just the fact that he would go out there and like do this thing, and it was like impressive, and it was like inspiring to me. And so after some time of going to his, whether he was doing shows or open mics or whatever, just around Sacramento, I was like, oh, I think I want to try this. And so it was just out of the fascination and the kind of love of stand-up comedy, because I was such a fan of stand-up comedy that at some point there's like I want to try it. You go from being a fan of something to wanting to do it. And maybe that happens to people who make movies. That happens. There's always like a point where, and I just had that, and I was like, I just like wrote stuff, and then I like at that time I used to play guitar as part of my my first set had a guitar. I remember it.
Music comedy.
Yeah, I did like a song.
That was your first time ever on stage.
Yeah, I did like some jokes, and then I did. You want me to tell you one of my jokes?
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine me. I don't know if I remember the song how to play it, but one of my jokes, I think it was in my first set, was like, this is 2007 probably.
Okay. Wow.
Was like, okay, imagine me, nerdy, Pakistani kid. I'd be like, oh, here's an impression of me getting a phone call from a friend I haven't talked to in a long time. And I'll be like, here, I'm going to do impression of me getting a phone call from a friend I haven't talked to in a long time. And I'd be like, oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, yeah, how are you? Yeah, I can come over to your house and fix your computer. Like that was a bit that I did. That was one of my first. Nice. And so I was like already doing like weirder kind of things, and but that was like my taste too. And that was one of my first things, and I kind of had like this like a thing, I guess, and I just did it. And then I did stand up from 2007 to like 2009-ish.
A couple years.
Yeah, a couple-ish, 2-ish years. And I did pretty well considering like I was so new to it. You know, and like we were doing shows. I was doing shows with Hasan, and then I did this South Asian comedy night. I remember it was called Pundits with Punchlines at the San Francisco Punchline.
Yeah.
So they had Tapan Trivedi put on this show. He's a comedian from Sacramento. I think he still does comedy. I'm not really sure. But shout out. And he put on this show, and he put me and Hasan on it. And I was like, I had been doing stand-up for like 2 or 3 months. And I went on
a long time.
And I did this show, and then I mean, it was a crazy magical night because I did well. And I got off stage, and the manager, the booker, Molly, she like, you know, came up to me. She's like, "Oh, you're really funny," and she's like, "You can come back here." Like, basically, I didn't even know how big of a deal that was at that time.
Wow.
Like, I had been barely doing comedy, and I just had a lot of I don't know, and so I was like basically like able to, and she knew I was like driving from Sacramento or whatever, and so she was like, when you're around, like, you know, you can let us know, and we'll like, and so I used to get stage time at the San Francisco.
You got passed.
Yes, I got passed.
Damn.
And I was like, but I didn't really understand that it was a big deal. So
that
I
can take somebody like a year or maybe 2 years
time.
or maybe even 3 years,
because
or maybe even
the
longer.
normal at that time, I don't know what it's like now, but at that time at the Punchline, you had to wait. You had to like come every Sunday and wait like 6 months, and then if they see you enough, they'd be like, let you do a set on the Sunday night show. Yeah. And that was like,
and then you have to do well, and then
and then maybe you'll get And so I think I didn't appreciate like how fast I was moving in comedy at that time as a stand-up, and I was like distracted between film, comedy, and obviously I was like working in medical devices at a point. I was just like doing too many things. I was like also like,
it crowds your
vision. It was just
a
lot of like I didn't know, and I think I was like genuinely just a creative person who was like applying that creativity to different things.
Right.
And I didn't have the like, maybe this is where mentorship is important, because I think if I had like a mentor who was like, no, focus on this.
Yeah.
You're good at this. You are this. Focus on this, and then you can do those other things later. Like I might have stuck with comedy, like stand up, and then like rode that longer, and then maybe pivoted to film later or something. I don't know what I would have done. I think things happened the way they happened, and I at some point was like, okay, I want to focus on film, and which is good because it was important for my journey and just like creatively. And so then I went to film school, and I kind of like stopped doing stand up. I felt like I needed to be
in
a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be like also a comedian who was like, I didn't think it was a good idea.
Yeah.
But now I think very differently about all that. Like now I think you should just do everything, because the skills are transferable, and you can actually get good at different things. Like,
and I think you use your stand-up comedy experience in your writing, because Mustache has
it's a comedy.
Comedic elements. Like
it's a drama,
funny
it's a comedy.
movie.
It's
a dramedy. Would you say? Right?
Yeah. And that like comes from me being interested in comedy, and
right.
like now, like in this year that I've like come back to stand-up, I've like, it's I think helped my writing. And
can I know? So what was that moment like, being back on stage? Because you did it after a decade, right?
Yeah, dude,
more than
14 years. It was like 14 years.
What was that like? I'm really curious.
Man, I think it's like,
where'd you do it? I want to know where you did it.
Oh, Deaf Noodles.
Deaf Noodles.
You know that?
Yeah. It no longer exists.
Yeah, I know. I think it's still a venue though, right?
Yes,
but they don't do a open mic.
Yeah, it's something, I don't know.
Something changed.
Yeah.
But I knew how. I think the one thing I had going for me coming back, I knew how to get good at comedy, because when I know what you have to do, right? Do open mics, watch open mics, then do open mics, and then just do it enough, and you'll kind of figure out what works, and you'll like build on it. Like I kind of knew what's the process of like a lot of people start comedy, they don't understand that grind.
Yeah.
They think they're just gonna get up there and crush.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I already knew I'm not gonna crush, but if I do it, I can start crushing like by
you had
reps.
the hindsight.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
the
yeah.
mentor
I'm not
hindsight.
like I'm like I know, just like writing a script.
Right.
First draft. You know, like I wrote 20 drafts of Mustache before, you know, before shooting it, or more, maybe 25, 30 drafts of Mustache.
That's very normal, yeah.
Yeah, but like I know that, but I think so. So I wasn't gonna. I knew like the process of getting good at comedy, and I knew I was starting from zero, and so my expectations were like, I'm gonna. And I remember my first set, I did like half of my old material from way back then. I was like, look, let me just. But I'm a different person now. I'm like so much older. Like I'm not the same like skinny kid that I was.
Wait, material from back?
Yeah, because I had some jokes that I was like, okay.
And you remember?
I'll tell you one of the jokes was like, another one, my closer. Yeah. And this stuff, by the way,
you want it on the podcast?
It's not gonna. I'm never gonna.
You don't use it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Use it.
It was my closer when I was like.
Back in the day,
and it's like now it doesn't get anything. I think because people don't watch commercials the same way, so I don't know.
What's the joke?
They know.
I want to know.
All right.
Do it.
So like, again, skinny nerdy kid. You know, like I'm in college, and you know they make me take a lot of tests, and sometimes I don't know the answers, the questions on these tests. And, you know, the question could be like, you know, what's the capital of, you know, some place I haven't heard of? And my answer is maybe it's Maybelline. Yeah. Doesn't crush anymore. It used to like crush because it was a commercial everybody knew
at the time.
Yeah, you have to like, it's a jingle.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like, and then I'd be like, you, and the teacher would be all mad, like, "What, are you trying to make fun of this class or something?" And I'm like, "Look, I said maybe, okay, you know, like, maybe, like I had like a tag on it, like I didn't say for sure, I said maybe, like, yeah, it used to work, but it doesn't work anymore because
it was topical at the time.
Yeah, it was just a thing people knew, like it was like in the culture." And then I did it on my first. I did that joke on my first set. Back.
Was that your closer?
No, I don't know where I put it. I can't remember where I put it.
Yeah.
And it like didn't get anything, or it got a little bit. It got a little bit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, this just doesn't work anymore. Like that's the thing about comedy. Comedy's contextual.
Like, it's great. Can I tell them the first time I met you? The story?
Oh yeah, that's a funny. That's kind of funny. Yeah.
All right, so
okay. Let's put this on the pod. Yeah.
It has something to do with Deaf Noodles.
Yeah.
I was doing open mics like a year ago, and I was on Deaf Noodles. I saw the sign up list. Yeah. And at that time,
well, how did you find out about me? We met through.
No, we met through LinkedIn, so I knew you as a filmmaker. I didn't know that you were a stand-up. I didn't know you did comedy at all. Like we connected on WhatsApp and stuff, and then I saw your name, and I sent you the screenshot. I was like, "Oh, dope! But I'm gonna meet you in like an hour." Well, I'm doing comedy, and you're like, "I don't know this guy." I don't know. It was like
I wasn't publicly doing stand-up, so I was like, "Oh,
you were trying to keep it low-key.
You know what I said? No, look. To be fair, I didn't lie.
You did not lie because you said. Oh, interesting. I don't know.
I was like, that's weird. I don't know. That's all I said.
That's weird.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like, because he's like, oh, this person has your name. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I don't.
And then I was like, I was trying to find out for you who this is, and you're like, oh yeah, let me know who that is, and then
yeah.
And then you never came, and then I was like, oh.
Well, okay, so that night I did sign up, but I couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't come. Yeah. I would have seen you that day.
And then
I finally saw you. At Fourth Wall. I was sitting. I was like, I do because after. Okay,
that's right, the cafe. Yeah.
So after I texted you, I was like, yo, I don't know. This guy never showed up, and you're like, oh, if he does next time, let me know.
Yeah, let me know. That's so weird. I was my name.
Yeah, I was like, there's no way there's another Imran J Khan in Hollywood. So I literally looked up Imran J Khan comedian. I was like, am I missing something? And then I finally saw you, and I was like, oh, this dude. It was this guy the entire time. That was funny.
It was like a secret thing I was doing, and I was just like, and I also thought it'd just be funny if I was just like.
It was hilarious when I saw you. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have a long conversation with this guy.
No, and then we hung out. And
we hung out. That was cool, man. That was dope.
But yeah, like that's how we met.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Well, do you feel creatively like your senses have been more excited because of stand-up comedy?
Oh man, it's so different because dude, when you do a movie, you're just like in your head imagining like whether it's a dramatic beat or an inspirational beat or a comedic beat, you're imagining these like how these things are going to work, and it takes years to see them. Like we were talking, it's 5 years, right, to make like a feature usually, or even longer. And so it's like you're just like waiting and hoping that this thing works. And I think with comedy, it's like you get to see if it works or not, and you get to test a creative idea.
live
so much faster that it's like that contrast to me was like so alluring coming off of directing a feature.
Yeah.
Where I was just like, oh, like that's why I was kind of itching to do it. I think I was like had something building in me. Like I think I need to go back to stand up, and I think it was really just like that that like what like being able to be creative and iterate and test ideas in like real time, and that was I still think that's like super cool, and also the fact that like you do it all on your own. Like it's you write it, you perform it, and you don't have like a team of people weighing in on which is how a movie is. Like a movie is like it's a group effort.
Yeah.
And even if you're the director and the writer, you're still like taking feedback from like all these, you know, whether they're producers, financiers, actors, everybody's giving you their feedback. And so sometimes you just want to do something that's for yourself. And I think stand up became that for me. Yeah, I don't know. It's like fun. It's something to do.
Does that bog you down when you're making a movie? Having all this advice? Maybe it's something
I mean,
unsolicited?
it's part of the job, to be honest. It's like you need to know how to like do what you want to do and like achieve what you're trying to achieve while also making sure, you know, people are happy with the way you're doing it. It's like any job kind of. You have to like, you know, I have my vision and they want your vision, but they also want you to like address their concerns or their notes. And so you're trying to like it's like a political it's a bit political and you have to learn how to navigate the politics. I'm not really interested in the politics, to be honest. Like that was the one thing that I was like I don't think I enjoy the politics. I think I can do well in that. Like I know how to like direct and I also know how to like be collaborative and I've learned that through having an editing career, just like learning how to work with other people creatively, and I can do that. But it's like sometimes you just want to do a creative thing that's your own thing, and I think stand-up is like one of the few examples. Like how many other examples of creative things can you just like do on your own where nobody's really, even at the like higher levels, nobody's really telling you what to do. You get to kind of just do what you want,
except the audience.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You're only accountable to the audience, right? So, like, if people aren't laughing at something or something doesn't work, you say maybe it's Maybelline. People are like, I don't know what the hell that. Yeah, like I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know what. Where's the joke exactly? Like you rewrite it. You kind of.
I think it gets harder at the higher level though. You know, when you go into arenas like the Chris Rock level,
it has to be. Like
your agents are in your head, your managers.
Maybe, but it's
people
still
are
pretty
giving you
solitary.
feedback. Yeah,
like. I don't know if there's another thing like that in popular culture.
You're right. Yeah.
That's like it's like Jimmy Fallon on the Tonight Show has like 100 people who are
writers,
like telling him stuff that he should or shouldn't do or whatever. And yes, it's his show, but whatever. I mean, there's not a lot of examples out there. I think stand-up comedy, like Andrew Schultz or like or Dave Chappelle or any people, like they walk out and they just do their comedy. They can do what they want.
That's why comedy is so big right now. Because people know that these guys don't like nobody's holding something over their heads. You know, they're just like their own people, and that's their own unique point of view.
Yeah, and so it's like I went from this being a cog, like not a cog, but being a part of a big machine as a filmmaker to then going to the fourth wall in the like most. I mean, honestly,
it's a comedy club. If you're listening, you don't know.
Yeah, like just open mics in LA.
Yeah,
and just going up there as a nobody too is kind of cool. Like I don't nobody knows I'm a filmmaker. Nobody knows like I'm anything else. They just I'm some random person who's now
just an open micer.
Yeah, I'm just an open micer. It was like nice. It was like there's no expectation. I don't have to be funny. Like I could fail. Like the permission to
fail. Ground zero.
Yeah, my ground zero. There's like nowhere to go below but up at that point. So it was like refreshing, you know? And like that's why I spent a whole year not telling people I was doing comedy. Because I just wanted to do it enough to feel comfortable with it, and then like then I can tell people like I'm doing it, and it's like they get to see me a little more formed too.
Yeah.
Instead of
That's beautiful because like you, in a way, I think you have a lot of humility because to somebody else who's making a feature film, it's like executive produced by Riz Ahmed and Hasan Minhaj and it's financed. Why would they waste hours of their time? Just like straight up
smart.
Yeah. No, but it's a good thing.
Do.
No, I actually I admire that because a lot of people would just that thought of just doing it again. They wouldn't even think of that. They're like, no, like I need to write another movie for this. Like you really went to being an artist because that's really what directing is about.
Maybe like it's a thing where I don't know if I've really like it's hard to intellectualize why I was like I think I need to do stand up. It's like it's just a feeling too. It's like oh I think I need to do this, and I it's some of it is like having to make the movie. Some of it's like I just want like to get out of the house because like my kids are asleep and what am I gonna do? Once you put the kids to sleep, it's like what is there to do? And then in LA you can do open mics. It's like a thing to go out and do, and so easy to do in LA that I was like, oh, this like works for my lifestyle. It works creatively for me. It's scratching an itch. It's just like all these things, kind of the timing of it.
I think it also gives you a lot of perspective when you're directing actors because you're being vulnerable on stage.
Oh yeah,
every day.
Oh, it's so vulnerable.
It's honestly, it's probably.
I still get very nervous.
You still get nervous?
Oh, I'm so nervous
really?
Every single time. Did I look nervous when you saw me? Like
no.
Okay,
I think
nervous.
I like your Enron. I still remember the Enron joke that you made.
Yeah. It was yeah. Those guys were riffing. Yeah, that was weird. It became a roast mic.
Yeah,
that particular one.
Fourth wall is always.
I was like, why is everybody roasting? For some reason, I got roasted a lot, and I was like, I don't know. I had a decent set though. Like my set was
it was
decent.
good. Yeah,
and everybody else was just roasting each other. And
that was in May. Wow, 5-6 months ago.
Yeah, I was still pretty new. I was halfway through my journey.
Did you get nerves when you were first doing it? Like in 2007, 2009?
Yes, but I had way more confidence, and I don't know why. Like I have recently watched my clips again from when I used to do stand-up, and I'm like, I don't know who that guy is. He's so confident about... Like I had like a stage character and sort of like a way of speaking and a way of like an energy. Yeah. Like I had like a nervous energy, but it was all like part of a character kind of. And it was... so confident, and it felt like I was watching that person. I was like, this guy like believes everything he's saying is so funny. Do you know what I mean? And I was like, I don't feel like that anymore. Like now I think I've seen so many pitfalls of things not working. Like as a comedian, as a director, as a writer, I've just lived too much life now to the point where I'm like,
you just aged out.
I got like that.
It's called aging.
Yeah, like where you're just like is that what is happening to me? Like you get to a point where you're just like, is anything funny? And like it's like, you know what I mean?
But that's no. I see what you mean. That's you questioning. Yeah.
I just think about like I still like I know I have. I know what I think is funny. I'm still in tune with my instincts. Yeah. Like I think it's funny, and I'll act on those instincts, and I'll be like, look, I think this joke can work, and I should work on it, and like on a technical way. And all my writing now starts from the impulse of like either freestyling into a voice recorder or like a voice note type thing, or I'll like I have to start from some level of spontaneity, because I don't think anything. I can't like. Analytically arrive at something funny the way maybe other comedians can. Like I can't like do some people do like they'll take a current event and then they'll like listen, like the way people write monologue jokes. I don't know if you know about that. They like there's like a formula to it.
Like SNL like monologues. Like
or like Tonight Show monologue or whatever. There's like a way to write it where you list out like all the related things to a thing, and then you list out, you know, like there's a way to do like,
I see what you mean.
Yeah. There's a way to create comedy, like in an analytical. I'm not the one. I don't know how to do that. Yeah. I'm always just like, oh, like it'd be like I think it'd be funny. Like start from a true feeling or a thought. Yeah. Where I'm like, oh, like I have a bit where I'm like, that's like about like if like I wouldn't cheat on my wife, but like I think if I did, it's a little bit longer than this, but if I did,
you gotta finish it now,
yeah. But I think if I did, like a small part of her would be proud of me. You know, like it's just like like as I got out there and I like talked to somebody. You know what I mean? Like that is like a thought I had. at some point I had like thought that, and I was like, that's kind of funny. And then I like sketched it out structurally, and then I was like, okay, yeah. And then I tried it and it worked. But it started from like, it didn't start from me, I need to come up with a funny. It's like a thought I had or a feeling, right? Like I'm interrogating my own feelings more through stand-up than like trying to be funny. I'm usually like rewriting on like a feeling I have. And then I'll find something.
What I've discovered I've only done it for 2 years, is I think the two most important things are structure and delivery. Yeah. So like sometimes I'll write something. I know it's funny.
A little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, sometimes I'll write something and I'm like, okay, this is funny. Yeah. But then I'll structure it in a way where the person doesn't understand the context. See, like they're not inside my head. Yeah. Like they don't know how I'm framing it. I need to be able to find the way to frame it for the audience, and that's
what
testing.
Filmmaking helps with that. Yeah. Because you really, all people know when you're watching a movie is what you've shown them, right? They don't know anything
outside. They don't know all the other tapes.
So you learn to be like, what does the audience need to understand this thing? Yeah. And so I take some of that muscle into stand up because I'm like, I think what people need is this for this joke to work. And so working on that, but sometimes I'm totally wrong, right? Comedy is so weird. Like sometimes you'll like be like, this is, and then you realize that when you do it, people don't get something, and then you have to rewrite it. But
I feel like sometimes delivery can be crap if just the writing of it is just so
of course,
funny. Like what you just said is hilarious. Like about your, like that's like, but the thing is, there's some other jokes that I write. They might not be the funniest in writing, but it's like that's where the delivery comes in. Like that's a delivery based joke. Like I think that's the challenge that I'm really in. Like I need to be able to.
It can be both. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be both. But sometimes like you need to be cognizant. Like, oh my god, okay, this is really a writing based joke.
Oh right, performance based.
It's a performance based.
Yeah. Like I love both. Yeah. Like I think like that's a really interesting thing that you're pointing out, because I do think about like some comedians are performance based.
Yes.
A lot. You know Atsuko, like the comedian.
Who?
Atsuko.
No.
She's like Japanese American. Anyway, she's like so funny. Her special is like. So her Netflix special is so funny, and like she's just so funny. But like I put her in the like she's performance based. Like it's not really.
I think Hasan to a certain degree is performing.
Yeah, but he's writing. I feel like he's both a little bit. But
like I think earlier on, I don't know, like in the 2000s, what was his special?
He's giving you arguments.
Yeah.
If you look at his comedy though, all of his comedy is like, hey, I'm setting up a thesis.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna walk you through why I'm proving that
supporting
thesis.
argument number one.
Supporting one. And each thing is like a funny example, you could say, or whatever. But he's to me very writerly and structured, and then he has act outs. Which are the performance things, where he will.
I guess it's a good balance then.
Yeah, but that's what you need to do like an arena.
Yeah,
you need like both actually. You need like structure and you need performance. I mean, Chris Rock. I mean, back to Chris Rock. Yeah. It's like, dude, he's got the arguments, the structure, the act outs, the he kind of has everything. Performance, the like.
He's one of those comedians, man, where every single word that he says matters.
Yes.
And he takes his damn time saying that. Like it's like
he repeats his setups a lot.
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Okay.
Multiple times, like 3 to 4 times.
Because he wants to make sure everybody from the back to the front, everybody knows what the premise of the joke is before he ever says the joke. Because like what's a Chris Rock bit? But I mean, he'll like literally repeat the premise over and over. It's because he's playing an arena. Yeah. And people aren't. It's like if you're playing a small venue, I think you can like.
A lot of big comedians do this. I think Jamie Foxx does this too.
Yeah, it's an important part of performance because
Kevin Hart.
You need to like almost remind people what the concept of the joke is,
and people remember those jokes. If you say it multiple times, they'll be like, "Oh, remember when you said that? Remember when you said that?" Yeah.
When it clicks, when it's full circle moment, right? People will know.
Yeah, it's like
a full circle moment is.
Yeah, because you've kind of set up, but performance. But what I was gonna say is the thing I think in my I guess I did stand up for 2 years, and then now I got 3 years under my belt.
Yeah.
Right. If you combine my pre and my post life, is like I think takes are the most important thing. Point of view and takes.
Your hot take on anything?
Yeah, but like on it.
What do you mean specifically by take?
Yeah. Take is like take is like okay, let's riff right now. So like if I'm like something people think is obviously bad, and okay, the United Healthcare CEO shooting, and everybody's like obviously this guy's a scumbag, and they're a horrible company, and they kill and hurt a lot of people. Obviously, right? Like that's like the obvious. The take on this would be like, you know what? I actually think he's a national hero, and let me tell you why. Yeah. All of a sudden, you have a take, and now the comedy is gonna go. Yeah. It's gonna be like easier to. It's like the take is the whole joke, actually.
Yeah. It's the devil's advocate.
The devil's advocate, the take, what's the weird...
No, I feel you.
You know, even in that, what I just told you, the take is what is interesting. It's like the wife being proud of the husband.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah.
It's actually the take, right? Yeah. That's the counter. It's a devil's advocate on something. It's the what's the unusual point of view. Yep. That's why I said Chappelle is the genius of takes. Yeah. Because he's like, I mean, there's so many. I can.
Yeah, those
like when he talked about Weinstein, and he says, when I saw his picture, I was like, yep, he rapes. Yeah. He has the face up. Like that take is just like, what? Like it's so funny already.
It's like a truth that nobody really. We think of it. We think in our heads, but like, oh my god, he said it. Damn,
he said it, and it's just from left field. It's not the take you think he's gonna say when he's talking about this case, right? I mean, the other one,
the Eminem.
Yeah. He's the the 8 Mile.
I like Kanye better, but
no, because he
says the truth,
and like in a way and from a direction you don't expect, right? That's the thing. That's comedy is like unexpected. Like it has to be. There's an element of surprise. Yeah,
and jabs and punches.
Chappelle comes from there's a surprise element to what the joke is even going to be, right? And then you're like, holy crap! But it's also like the take. That's what I'm saying. Take is so important. Like name some what jokes you like. I guarantee you they're good takes. It's not like a clever wordplay. It's not. It's yes, sometimes they have that, but I think the thing that makes it a classic bit is the take. Yeah, it's the point of view on the subject. Yeah, not the like.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Punchline necessarily.
Yeah.
Which
that's what makes comedians stand out too. It's like their takes. Oh my god, they look at things in a very different way.
Yeah. But I think that's 90%. If you have a good take, you write down a good take, like you're 90% there on that joke. But if you have a take that's weak, it doesn't matter how good you write it.
What makes it a weak take? You know,
it's just it's something everybody else has already said. It's something that's like obvious,
right?
If I'm like
surface level,
if I'm like Luigi who shot the guy, he's a hero. I'm already bored. I'm like, everybody thinks that already, right? So how are you going to make that interesting? It's like really hard. You're going to have to dig so much harder to find comedy from that take because it's a boring take. There's nowhere to go comedically.
That's a fair point.
I think Luigi's ugly.
Yeah, maybe that's interesting.
I don't think he's handsome at all.
So good looking. Okay, everybody's saying how good looking this guy is, but that's kind of funny though, right? So now there's a take a little bit, right? Because it's not what you expect. Yeah. But you can find a truth in it. Yeah. You can still find a truth in it. Right. But that people haven't said yet.
Yeah. You have to have your own authentic
point of view
to that take.
I mean, another way is like, okay, let's say I'm Muslim, right? And I'm like going to use my point of view as like a Muslim American to tell a joke that nobody else could tell. I mean, I might be like, I don't know, like you know, you might do a joke trying to. This is bad. I don't want to say this. I disagree with this, but I'm gonna say it.
Just say it.
Luigi, like trying to like claim Luigi as one of us because it's like terrorism adjacent. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. Like I use my point of view, right? And then I'm saying I have a take on the story that other people don't have, and then now I can find comedy in that. Right. Like I think the take is a whole thing, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like you don't have. There's almost no joke without a take.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Do you know what I'm saying? Does this make sense?
That's like stand-up. That's a professional
that's why somebody pays a ticket to see you in an arena. They're like, why am I spending money to see this guy tell me jokes? You know,
yeah.
There's funny people in our lives. But this guy has a completely different point of view and take. Yeah. And like, his aura is just whoa.
Yeah,
like, that is what stands out comedians.
Like Nate Bargatze, who's like
clean comedian,
classic bit. I mean, honestly, I say it's like an all-time GOAT. Like bit is just like, if I went back to he's like, his whole character is like, I'm kind of stupid, right? Like Nate Bargatze's character in general is like, I'm kind of an idiot. I am an idiot, actually. It's like he's basically saying, I don't read books and I don't know a lot of things and I'm confused by the world. Like, that's his whole character. And his bit is like if I went back in time, I don't think I would make a difference. I don't think I could, because he's like, I don't know enough about. They'd ask me, you don't know this bit? Oh, no. You gotta look this up. This is like a great Nate Bargatze bit. But he's like, if I went back in time, and I saw somebody with a phone, and I'd be like, oh yeah, like one day, you're gonna have that in your pocket.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, well, how do they do that? And he'd be like, oh, I don't know. Like, he doesn't know enough to even
that's
prove.
A smart joke.
Even prove he's from the future.
Right. I can't.
He's saying the what without the why.
Yeah. Wow. And so it's like, it's such a funny, and it like the bit goes
smart
on,
writing.
and it's just like, it's based on his point of view, which is like, I'm kind of a dumb guy, but then it's also like, it's like a really interesting
you're diving in deep into who you are. You're just embracing yourself. That's
and
what
illustrating.
I think that's the journey.
Who are you?
Who am I?
No, who are you?
Like, who am I?
Yeah. How do you feel about your? Yeah, but what do you like? What is your like?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, who? Like you said,
are you smart aleck? Blah blah blah. Are you? I think the problem with you're a bit good looking, and it's you have to figure that out. I
got a crooked nose, man. From what angle?
No. He's a good looking. I think objectively, you're like, you're
the only one saying this right now.
No, Diddy.
I think no. Like, it's like a thing you have to figure out as a comedian. If Hasan had to figure this out. He's like a good looking dude, right?
Hasan is remarkably good looking.
Yeah, I know, but that's a problem. When he was starting out, it was a bit of a problem because people don't want to laugh at a guy who's like.
He's never addressed that. I'm surprised. He's never really has he talked about that?
No, but he figured out what to do with it. Like,
I want him to talk about that though, because I feel like he never addresses.
It's hard to be a stand-up who's like also like tall and good looking.
Yeah, he's 6 feet. Yeah, good looking dude.
I think the beard helps. It does.
Yes.
When he used to not have a beard, it's like a little. I mean, no, way earlier than that.
Even earlier than that.
He used to be like clean shaven, clean cut, and I think it was like. It's just you have to work harder for the laughs.
Yeah.
And I think he did the beard thing. It's just like it's easier to like make the audience feel like you're vulnerable when you can like be like you got to work again. So here another good example is Anthony Jeselnik. You know Anthony Jeselnik?
Of course.
So
he's hilarious.
He came out when he talks about how he developed his stage character. His stage character came out because he's a tall, good-looking white guy. He comes out, he looks like a douchebag.
Yeah.
He looks
like Matt Rife is a very good example of this. Like, he addresses it straight on.
Like Anthony Jeselnik, he's like when I came out, when I would go on stage, just because of who I am, people hated me.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm just gonna lean into that. So all his comedy is like, I'm a villain. He's like, I'm just a villain. Like I kill my parents in my act. You know what I mean? Like he embodies the villain because it's what people. I think you need to figure out your thing. Yeah. For that.
No, that's the whole journey.
Yeah. No, but like it's like you knowing who you are, and then like understanding like how to connect to the audience.
Yeah,
using who you are.
I sometimes like talk about this. If I'm doing shows and stuff, but like I don't know. I'm still struggling to like how to. It's not like
people want to hate a guy who people.
I'm not. But I'm not. I'm like a mid good looking. You know, I'm not like amazingly.
Yeah, but for a comedian,
I'm not like a Matt Rife.
No. Hold on.
I'm comedian good looking. Yeah, exactly.
But
I'm
for a
ugly in real.
No.
Life.
I think you're like I don't know. It's hard for me to judge.
Yeah,
but I feel like you're above average.
Average.
You're like up there. But for a comedian, you're like.
Yeah,
good looking.
I'm like a comedian 9 and like a regular 7. You know.
Yeah, maybe. That's, yeah. 7's pretty high though.
Yeah,
anyway.
7. You know, 70%. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I feel like we need to do a survey or something. But
hold on. So what do you talk to? I'm curious now. What do you tell the audience to try to find yourself?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
Because you said
to
you're talking
connect with people because they think you're like,
This has only come up like a handful of times. It's not like everywhere I go, people are like, damn.
No, but it's it's like
no,
it's
I get
not
it. It's
gonna
subconsciously. No, you're right.
It's just people don't laugh.
Yeah.
Because
no,
they're like,
you.
this guy looks like an asshole.
I've addressed it. I've addressed it. I've had these. See, I don't talk about it enough.
But what did you address? That's the question.
Like in shows, like I just it's a crowd work moment.
No, but I don't know if you should address it. I think you need to own it as part of your
as personality.
Yeah,
no, I feel like what you're coming at.
Yeah.
Like my brand. Like who am I? Yeah.
Like I think what
authenticity.
It is all authentic. It actually all is all
podcast.
Who are you? That's why it was.
Who are we?
Yeah. So it's like whoever you are, you need to like own it even more on stage.
That is with everything art.
Yeah, it's all art.
That's with acting. That's with literally filmmaking. That's with writing.
Yeah.
If you're writing a character who like you have to embody these people.
Be true to them.
Right.
And it's true to you. Really, when you write a script, it's all about you. Like you're just using different characters as like different parts of your personality to like clash.
But that's why Mustache it's so successful, right? Because it was about
it's
you.
based on my life. Yeah. And I owned my own insecurities, and I owned all the things that was like bothered me or made me feel awkward or made me feel uncomfortable. Like I just tried to like lean into those things. But I think as stand up you have to do the same thing where you're like, what really bothers you and who are you?
So why don't people lean into it enough?
You mean comedians?
And people in general, maybe is insecurity or they don't know how to be authentic?
Nobody wants to be vulnerable.
For my it's that, and I think at least from my POV, I was thinking about this, like, why am I? It's because I never thought of myself as a good-looking dude in my teenage years. Like this is very recent, like college. Like I was like, like I straightened my act out. I don't know, like I went to the gym, my teeth got straighter. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like. I think it's still coming to terms.
Matt Rife
with,
has a joke about that. Actually.
He's like, this just happened. This you see right here. Yeah. I resonated so much with that because I was I feel you, bro. Like this just happened for me as well. But I think it goes back to not being fully in terms with how people perceve you.
Yes, you have
and
to know
internal.
how people perceive you.
Yeah. Not just that you have to internally be okay with that perception. You know.
Yeah, I like lean. I feel like I have always leaned into kind of what people think of me when I come on stage. It's like, when you instantly somebody comes on stage, it's like I have I can't tell certain jokes.
Yeah.
That they won't work for me. And so I know maybe what the pocket of what will work for my personality and give people that, a little bit. Like give them
I
what
noticed
they
that when you
expect.
did your set, you addressed the room immediately.
Yeah. Like talk about my name. And my voice. I have a joke about my voice.
You talk about your voice.
Yeah.
Oh, bro. Okay, this is great because when you did your set,
it
was my first time seeing you speak.
My daughter burned me on my voice.
Really?
I'll tell you what.
She burned you?
Yeah, it was like mean. Well, she didn't mean it.
No, but what happened was when you were doing your set, you addressed it immediately, your voice. The first thing I thought about was like, damn, your voice. And you talked about that immediately. And I was like, oh, as an audience, it's clicking what you're saying. Because you addressed. Yeah, you immediately.
You need that.
You read my mind. You're like, oh, okay, he talked about it. Now we can go on to the other stuff. Because sometimes if you don't talk about it,
they're thinking about it.
They're still thinking about it. They're like,
like
it's not matching up.
Like if you come up and you're really short.
Yeah.
You come up and you look like whatever. Like you look like some other celebrity or something. Like you kind of have to
if you
gotta say something about it because people are like I don't know. It's like they want to know that you know who you are.
Yeah.
And if they feel like you don't know who you are, they're like not gonna laugh.
Why should I trust you?
Yeah. They're like, you're dishonest.
I don't know me either.
It's about honesty. It's like, oh, this guy's being dishonest with us. Why you're not? So they want to know you're honest.
It's also gaining their trust.
Yeah.
Part of winning in comedy is the audience trusts you with their time.
Yeah, exactly.
When they think they can trust you with their time,
they'll laugh at anything.
They'll listen.
They'll listen,
sometimes
and laugh at a lot.
You lose somebody's attention like this.
Yeah.
You make like one bad joke. Go down a weird rabbit hole. What'd you say?
Pivot the wrong way.
Yeah, pivot the wrong way. I thought you said Bitcoin. I was like, you talk about Bitcoin, you just lose everybody's touch. We can talk about stand-up comedy for hours.
All your friends and family, it's just like Bitcoin.
Yeah, we can talk about this for hours. But before you go, I do want to ask you this. I don't know if you have
can I
any
say
last
what my
questions.
daughter said?
Yeah. Talk about
so
this.
my daughter said, "You have the voice of a daddy." But also of a baby. That's what my daughter said. She was like 4 years old. You have a daddy voice and a baby
But did you say
voice.
this on the set that day?
No, I can't.
Oh, okay.
I don't. Should I say that?
You should.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's actually
I'm like,
funny.
Yeah.
My daughter just told me I have a voice of a dad and a baby.
Yeah, she said that. It's like, oh my God. I was like, that was so accurate.
Daddy, you sound just.
I was like,
Daddy, why do you sound just like me?
She wasn't trying to be mean. She actually was saying that she's like, I love your voice.
Yeah.
You sound like a baby.
So she was nice about it.
Yeah. And you
Maybe
sound
you
like
could do that.
You have a daddy voice and a baby voice.
Kids are so honest.
Yeah.
They have the purest intentions at heart. Yeah.
It was,
but sometimes that intention translates to comedy for adults. Right?
Yeah. So there's some, maybe I can incorporate that. But yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it.
You should start off with my daughter just told me she loves me, and then I don't know, that's funny. That's funny, man.
It's endearing.
So before, do you have any questions? Last questions?
Go ahead.
Oh,
mine is, so I want to go back in time. What is something you would say to the 25-year-old Imran who was still, doing that engineering job before applying to film school? Like, what's some advice you wish somebody told you at that time?
That's such a good question. That's
4. That's 4.
Oh wow!
That's
Did you get
4. That's 4, and he wasn't even trying to force that.
I feel like I lost or something. Like you got me. Like I feel like I didn't want to give in, and then you're like, oh man, I said it again. Damn it.
Subconscious, buddy. Yeah.
No. Wait. What? Yeah. What? 25. Oh, okay. 20. Because that's such a pivotal time for me. That's right before I went to film school.
Quarter of a century.
I think that I would say many things, but one of the things would be I wouldn't put myself in this box. I think when I was like, okay, I'm going to film school, I had this like really pretentious view of like, I'm a writer director now. And I think it was like limiting, and it stopped me from doing a lot of creative things that I could have been doing, like stand up, like acting. Like I could have just still been like, hey, I want to act. I could have been doing other things, and and maybe there's something to focusing on one thing and trying to get really good at it. There's a merit to that actually, and I do believe in that to some degree. But I think like you shouldn't, like, your creative passions need to be alive. Like if you're creatively interested in something, don't shut it off. And I think I was like closing doors on myself that I didn't need to close, like that weren't like mandatory to close. And keep the doors open, keep all the creative doors open, because you don't know like where life's gonna lead. And I think like when I was at that age, I was like very narrow in like how I wanted to be an artist. And I think it's like, keep it broad. I think that's what I would tell myself. Like, and I don't think I realized how easily stand-up came to me at that time. And if I had like stuck with it, I think I could have maybe like done more than one thing at earlier age. But I enjoy coming back to it now, to be honest. It's like such a cool thing to come back to and like do. So I don't know, things kind of worked out, to be honest. Like I don't know what I would change, but I would have loved to have that advice of just like keep those doors open.
Keep doors open.
Yeah.
Life has a path.
Yeah.
Cool. That's music to my ears, because that's kind of what I've been doing. That's keeping all the doors open, literally.
You have to.
You don't know the half of
works.
it.
No, see, too many doors. And they're like slamming in your face, and
it's hard in the beginning to have
so much rejection.
To have everything open, and then it's like you're in the grind of everything.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know about that. Yeah, maybe there's some way you need to still be focused in some way. Like you have to.
Yeah.
You gotta. I think it's good to do something like in concentrated periods, like spend a year trying to get really good at like one thing.
Yeah.
Whether that's like content creation, stand up, something like living and breathing one thing for like a short period of time can do wonders for your creativity,
because it can give you insight in do you want this to be your life.
Yeah. Like film school for me, 3 years concentrated living and breathing filmmaking, writing, directing, all that was like I feel like I grew 10 years as a filmmaker in those 3 years. If I had to like done it on the side, like 10 years of doing something on the side, in those 3 years, I like leveled up. So I think there's something to the concentrated grind. I mean, people stand-ups do that, right? They're doing 3-4 sets a day. They'll do like doing open mics
and then shows after.
And then in a year or two they're just in a different place. I mean, that's like the grind of doing one thing can get you there, but you got to pick a grind. I guess it's like picking a grind. You got to pick.
It's a blessing to have multiple grinds, because some people can't find the grinds.
Learning is a bell curve too, right? To a certain extent. I mean, you're going to learn exponentially more in the beginning. And then as you go, I mean, obviously you have to fine tune it, but now you have because you know how to do it.
Yeah.
You have time to do other things.
You have built up a expertise
Exactly,
in one thing,
yes.
and now you don't
Yeah.
have to grind that same way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with anything business.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
anything
It's
creative.
life,
yeah,
man.
that's life.
That's life.
But
It's a
if
bell
you're
curve.
a beginner
Yeah.
in everything, that might be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You can't be a
Yes.
beginner in everything.
Yeah.
You have to like at some point have like something that's like your expertise where you
Right.
bring back like yeah. So
You can't be an associate for the rest of your life, you know?
yeah, you
Like, you
do
have
need to be
to-
a master at something at some point, I think. And that takes that concentrated like time, but I don't
Yeah.
know, it's
Concerted
hard.
effort.
I don't know anything anymore. And
Life's
I don't-
hard.
Yeah, like I don't it's just hard. Like you got to stick it through and
Just get through it,
Yeah.
man.
yeah,
Keep
but
going.
Keep living, as Matthew
yeah,
McConaughey
be
says.
creative, stay creative.
Yeah.
I
I think that's the key.
Uh,
Thank you so much for
well,
coming.
yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say? Where can people find your films, your work?
Yeah, Mustache coming soon, very soon. And then I have a short that I directed not too long ago called Group C. You can Google it.
Okay.
Group C.
Yeah. And I am speaking of multiple creative paths, like I'm editing Hasan Minhaj's YouTube show, which has been really fun to do, and very flattered that he asked me to do it. And so you check that out. It's called Hasan Minhaj Doesn't Know. Very funny and informative show.
Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Cool. Great. We did it.